Our story begins with the story of Wendy Blanchett. She is the best student of the great sage Shakma, who occupied a high place in the Tower of Sorcerers, an institution recognized by the Imperial family of Morinata. The main character is a genius by nature. She became the youngest master of the third level. But in one moment, all these beautiful titles and achievements were washed away by a single stigma of a dirty witch. It was on the wedding day of the one Wendy loved so much that it all began. The girl was in love with unrequited love for 10 years, and finally, all the feelings that she felt, and about which she could not tell anyone, finally died. It is impossible to describe the emotions that Wendy felt then, when her 10 years of hope for love, which had bound her, disappeared in one moment. The heroine expected that relief would come after that, but in the end, she only felt abandoned. Two emotions were fighting in her. One simply wanted to experience it in solitude, and the other was tearing the girl apart from the fact that no one would support her. At this moment, even a simple hug would be enough for her. The main character was sitting in an empty room and crying, but suddenly someone knocked on the door and called her name. Someone was very alarmed and worried about Wendy's condition. After long requests, the girl still opened the door to her husband, although she herself did not understand how she dared to do so. Wendy immediately ran to the boy who was behind the door, hugged him tightly, and at the same second kissed him right on the lips. The boy whom the girl so carelessly kissed and seduced was Aiden Winter, the most popular newcomer in the Sorcerer's Tower. Even Wendy's teacher highly praised this young man. He had a good upbringing, he behaved politely with others, had great success in magic, and also a beautiful appearance. Thanks to this, the young man conquered more than one heart in the institution. The girl began to make inquiries. The good news was that he was of legal age, and the boy was a third-level worker in the Sorcerer's Tower. Therefore, the girl concluded that Aiden is not a thief. Suddenly, she began to worry, because she did not know what her teacher's reaction would be to this. Then her thoughts were interrupted by the young man himself. He just woke up. The boy seemed cute to her, but she felt guilty before him. Wendy asked if Aiden remembers what happened that night. She understood everything from his face and asked if it was his first time. Wendy apologized and added that she would answer for her actions, because the boy most likely did not want this, and she believed that she had taken advantage of him. The girl was afraid to even imagine what would happen if someone spread information about her relationship with a newcomer. She wanted to keep it between her and Aiden. But suddenly the young man asked if the girl swears to do what he asks. Wendy swore her name with ease, but what she heard next shocked her completely. Aiden wanted Wendy to marry him. The lady took it as a joke, and the young man's intentions were as serious as ever. She began to reassure the boy that this was a strange decision, since they had only spent one night together, and that her words about responsibility were aimed at making amends to the boy. Wendy excused herself by the fact that she was simply drunk and did not understand what was happening. Therefore, she considered it correct to compensate for the moral and physical damage caused. But just one night cannot change her whole future life so much, she cannot agree to the young man's request. But Aiden reminded that the lady swore an oath in her own name, after which tears flowed down the young man's face. The feeling of guilt prevented the girl from behaving coolly with the boy, and she began to calm him down. The young man replied that they do not act like that, and it is not fair on her part. Wendy began to think about this whole situation. She understood that her usual life had most likely come to an end, but on the other hand, the boy looked quite nice. He was her type. Not hearing an answer, Aiden began to jump to conclusions. Tears appeared on his face again. Wendy couldn't stand it, so she agreed to marry him, if only he wouldn't cry. At the moment when the girl agreed to marry the boy, she realized that she fell for the usual psychological manipulation. But it was already late. Wendy felt bad, she had trapped herself, and he has no idea how to get out of it. The girl was incredibly ashamed of her behavior. Her stomach started rumbling, and her head felt dizzy. She had no idea how much she had drunk the night before. Logan approached her. He is the main researcher of magical laws and Wendy's personal secretary. The man offered her a glass of water and asked her if she should leave earlier today, because she does not look well. The lady replied that everything was fine with her, but the guy insisted on his point. Wendy really didn't look well, and it was a bad idea to wait until the end. Still, Logan's request did not help, so he asked to call him whenever necessary. Meanwhile, the secretary will be in the lab. After that, the boy left the room. Wendy got up and was confident that she would handle everything. Although she was surprised by Logan's ability to always notice her condition, he seemed to see right through her. and she knows how to keep herself in her hands, so she doesn't break down on him. It was surprising to the lady how important a role a person's appearance plays, although this is not surprising, because she likes everything beautiful. Although the feeling that this is wrong did not leave the girl, she still hasn't recovered from the fact that she brought a handsome, mature man to tears. At the moment when she agreed to get married, the girl only wanted Aiden not to be sad. Wendy did not know how best to trick her into pretending that nothing had happened. She doubted that the boy would sue her for cheating on the marriage, but the rumors about the night before were a much bigger problem. The lady did not know how to hide the marriage, because as soon as she gets married, absolutely everyone will know about it. Wendy was preparing herself. She wanted to refuse the boy, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. Suddenly, she heard how she smelled of alcohol. She couldn't understand how Aiden was kissing her. The main character began to easily recognize the boy, even by his physique at a great distance. Although until yesterday, she was hardly able to do it. Aiden was talking to Kona. She is a 6th-year witch in the Wizarding Tower. This girl talked about the boy at every meeting. She was in love with him. Suddenly, Wendy heard the conversation between the newcomer and Kona. She asked him about where exactly the man was at night, because he did not spend the night in his rooms. Aiden replied that he had important work at night, so he didn't spend the night in his room. Wendy was frightened by the fact that Kona was so interested in the boy's personal life. Suddenly, Aiden admitted that he had spent the night with a girl. He wanted to tell who exactly he spent the night with, and our heroine called the young man. She ordered him to come to her immediately, because such behavior is unacceptable. Kona's reaction was predictable. She was very surprised. Wendy repeated her order to the boy and asked him not to run, because it was dangerous. The young man smiled and replied that he would come now. Aiden came as fast as he could and asked why the woman called him. The lady replied that they needed to discuss something. The question was about the wedding. The guy was happy, because for such an event there is a lot to discuss, but the girl wanted something else. She wanted to avoid all this. The young man was no longer interested in this. He began to consult with her about the marriage ceremony. He was interested in all the details, in which place this celebration would take place, a magnificent or modest celebration. He wanted to know everything. Aiden added that he would be happy with any decision she made. But Wendy didn't let up and told the boy directly that she couldn't marry him. After all, they don't know each other that well, and she also doesn't think that after one night they need to hurry up and bind each other with marriage bonds. She was sure that the young man would regret it in the future. In addition, Wendy will make a bad wife. She has a difficult character, and the very man she is in love with is still etched in her memory. Before all this, Aiden hadn't bothered her much, but now she couldn't take her eyes off him for even a moment. It's strange for her. For the first time, she shows such a weakness for beauty. For a witch, an oath is equivalent to poison, because if you don't follow it, you can lose a huge amount of mana. The only thing that can be done in order not to lose magic is to change the meaning of the oath. She wanted to assure the young man that marriage is ultimately disappointing and that there is nothing good about it. Aiden needs to think about the future. In this case, the young man decided to act differently. To begin with, they had to get engaged. The young man knew that the lady was in a bad situation and took advantage of it perfectly because the oath cannot be revoked. Wendy will not be able to avoid this relationship in any way, which means that the guy has no intention of giving in. The next day, Aiden came to Wendy's tower again. Rossi, Mayer, and Nick were very happy to see the boy. They were interested in what the young man brought this time. The boy took out a carrot, cabbage, some onions, apples, and 2 potatoes from a paper bag. They were incredibly happy because even so, the products had an incredible smell. There was no reason for Wendy to date Aiden. Even without him, she was incredibly busy, so much so that she even stayed overnight more than once, conducting postponed experiments for as long as 3 months. It will be great if Aiden gets tired of chasing after her and stops trying. Even if they met, Wendy wanted to show her bad character in all its glory. The girl wanted to kill the attachment even before it started between the two of them. She found 3 cases among the huge number of those in the laboratory. Due to the sudden rush, the laboratory workers were overwhelmed with work. Although Wendy is sorry for the scientists, you need to work to get rid of obsessive thoughts. And our heroine thought so. She thought that by immersing herself in work, she would be able to forget about everything, although she did not understand how Aiden constantly appeared next to her. There was a feeling that there was absolutely nothing left to do in the Magic Crystal Research Department. Wendy asked why the boy was still not at his workplace. She believed that Miss Hannah was turning a blind eye to the newcomer's tardiness. But in reality, all she cared about was caution and the result, Aiden answered. He added that if you skillfully carry out all her orders, then she does not mind the absence of a boyfriend at the workplace. Wendy was a little angry, because the boy had an answer for absolutely everything. The boy went about his business, and later Wendy saw the students whispering among themselves about her. She didn't really like it. At lunch, Aiden also came to the heroine. He put 2 pieces of cake on the table and added that one should not miss meals. There was also a flower next to the cake. The girl took it in her hands and added that the flower does not fit here because it cannot even be eaten. But the young man replied that he just wanted to give her a flower. The guy had no complexes at all. He said goodbye again and promised to come later, although Wendy asked not to come again. They are not allowed to meet, but Aiden keeps coming. It started to happen so often that he already rubbed a hole in the door of the laboratory. She did not understand the meaning of his actions. Even the members of the laboratory, who should have opposed him, took his side. At this rate, Aiden could stay in her tower forever. Although the heroine did not show this to Aiden, she really liked the cake. It was incredibly tasty. But even if Aiden's dishes were so delicious, she didn't understand how the staff could give up so easily. But the secret is very simple. Wendy never treated them, only using them as extra arms and legs to sort materials. Wendy used to think they were more difficult, and recently realized that this was not the case. The girl asked if the students were tired of Aiden, but they, on the contrary, were very happy to work with him. After all, he is beautiful and also brings food. But the heroine did not pay attention to this. Aiden goes even before he has enough time, which is why the students like him so much. It all seemed strange to Wendy, because for 7 years no one had been here but the 4 of them, and her subjects had not learned to like interference in their possessions. And here they missed Aiden so easily, especially in such a difficult period when they started a new project. This all means that they should be more careful. But as soon as Aiden Winter arrives, they become like loyal dogs and are only happy to see him. It strongly reminded our heroine of betrayal. Suddenly, one of the subordinates asked if she could tell me something. Wendy agreed, because she had never ordered her. In fact, she was just always reprimanding Logan and Nick. The girl told Wendy that Aiden is very good at the law. 5 days ago, he came when the heroine was not there. With just one glance at the study, he easily found an error in it. Judging by this, the girl almost made a mistake again. But this offense can be forgiven because Aiden saw it even before handing in the material. The workers began to ask Wendy to write an application to transfer Aiden to their laboratory, because there are very few such talented newcomers. The woman was shocked by what she heard. She could barely stand the fleeting minutes she spent with him, and here, seeing the young man's face every day. Wendy immediately rejected the student's request to transfer Aiden. But the student did not want to put up with it. She began to assure that the study of magic stones is a very boring activity, and that few people want to do it. They can't just lose talented newcomers like that. All 3 lab workers were literally begging Miss Wendy to transfer the newbie to them, because he was just the kind of newbie they could rely on. In addition, he is very handsome and cooks well. Still, they managed to convince Wendy to at least talk to Hannah about borrowing Aiden for a while. But our heroine did not promise anything. The next day, the young man made his colleagues happy, because now he will work together with them. Even Wendy is surprised, because the young man managed to put all the research in its place on the very first day. Wendy asked Aiden why he didn't go to the Magical Law Research Department right away. But the young man answered that the recruitment was closed that year. The woman remembered that she hadn't been able to find good employees for a long time, so she didn't start recruiting. After that, the heroine realized what talent she might have missed. Unlike the previous days, Aiden surprisingly sat silently, but it was clear from his face that he was in love with our heroine. Suddenly, Wendy looked at Rossi. She at the same moment turned to the boy and told him not to worry, because he will like her. But Aiden replied that he came to this tower only for Miss Wendy. The subordinate added that the heroine is really popular, but her celebrity is no match for the skills she possesses. Rossi added that by not talking about her skills, Wendy can gain more respect, because it's a good tone not to brag about your good points. But the woman did not care, because she is so wonderful. But in addition to a large number of fans, our heroine had a lot of haters. Many could not stand her name or title. It all happened 30 years ago. The girl got to study with a great sage, who announced that he would no longer take students. It meant that Wendy surprised him a lot and was a really brilliant person. When the girl was little, she was always modest when she heard words of praise. But the more she did it, the more hatred there was in her direction. Since then, her motto has been to give a reason for hatred to those who hate her. Rossi asked if the newbie who likes Wendy so much would stay in the tower all night again. The woman replied that after they finished their work, they could go home. The subordinate was very tormented and asked to rest at least a little, but our heroine did not answer anything. Meanwhile, the boys were talking among themselves. Tim asked to bring more supplements for endurance from his friend. But Rossi answered them that such drinks should not be abused because they make them dumb. Wendy was amused by the fact that a subordinate believed in such rumors and decided to give the employees a break. Today, she will go home at 5 in the evening. Everyone was very happy, and the girl asked the manager if there would be a welcome party in honor of the fact that Aiden had joined the team. Although Wendy didn't really want to, she decided to have a party as soon as the sun went down. The woman asked if Aiden was okay with it. He agreed with everything. But you can't relax now, because you need to work hard before a wild party all night long. Everyone immediately got to work because they wanted to rest later. Wendy had a strange feeling. Aiden, who was not related to her in any way, suddenly filled her entire life. Due to the fact that the boy came to her every day, she got used to him. But after the heroine thought everything over and understood, it began to bring her discomfort. Suddenly, Marlon, Shakma's secretary, entered her office, and she was summoned to his office. Shakma is the same great teacher. Everyone has heard his name. Wendy met him at a very young age. Who would have thought that a simple villager would turn out to be so talented at magic? For our heroine, the teacher's face was like the sun. The girl idolized him. The teacher took in the still little Wendy. He promised that he would be able to feed her something better than bread, and the child agreed. The family in which the main character lived was very poor. Besides, she had a younger sister who was even thinner than her. If there is one less person in the family, the sister will be able to survive. Shakma gave little Wendy a hand and led her along. They were to walk a long way, long and up, until the girl was taller than the teacher. The heroine came to the teacher's office. It seemed to her that she became a child again as soon as the teacher looked at her and wanted to understand. He remarked that the girl looked much better than he could have thought, although the lady did not understand what could have changed because only a few days had passed. But Shakma added that Wendy suffered from incredibly severe measles. Although the girl assured that it was just a cold, the teacher added that he should have said that and ordered not to ask any more questions. The sage continued. He told that recently, strange rumors began to circulate about her. Wendy decided to interrupt the teacher again and ask what exactly the rumors were about. She thought they were about her workaholicism and how much she exhausted her employees. But Shakma added that the rumors are about Wendy getting a dog. The girl did not understand what the sage meant, because she never liked furry animals. But this is not surprising. The sage always spoke in riddles. Suddenly, he added that it wasn't even a dog. This person looks more like a wolf, and that wolf is Aiden Winter. The girl's face turned very pale, and she was frightened. She did not expect that the teacher would find out about it. But Wendy replied that this is just a newbie who helps them in their work. The old man replied that if it were so, the rumors would not have reached him. Shakma said that this guy stands out for his skills, so it is not surprising that he will be discussed. Wendy only added that they have a lot of lazy people, and they don't like her very much either. The great teacher replied that this means that there are those who feel her truly grave nature, but Wendy jokingly replied that she learned it from her teacher. They laughed at it. The woman wondered why the teacher called the boy a dog, but he replied that Aiden is like a dog, because he also grabs the collar and follows his owner. Wendy replied that it sounded like an insult, although she couldn't deny it. Shakma saw that the girl had no attachment to him. The lady replied that she was not so cruel, because he had not done anything wrong. But you can't fool the teacher, because it was Wendy who turned away all the boys of different status and type from whom she received love proposals. But Wendy replied that she was simply disgusted. Surprisingly, Aiden is the first guy to whom the woman did not feel disgusted. The sage asked what was the difference between them. At first glance, 5 years is not so much, but the difference in work experience makes him even younger. Wendy entered the Mage Tower at the age of 5, eventually gaining her command of the Department of Magical Laws and becoming a third-level employee. Usually, people in the same position as her are from 40 to 60 years old, and the newcomers who came last year were for her no more than yellow-mouthed. Big Shakma found it funny to watch Wendy talk about Aiden, because to him they are both exactly the same. Still, Wendy had no intention of considering the boy as a special man. The sage gave advice. He said that the girl should not be attached to anything and do as she wishes, because this is a special right of young people, and people are young until death. Wendy asked if these words also applied to the sage. He immediately replied that it applies to everyone without exception, and asked if he did not look like that. The girl replied that the teacher looks much younger, even than her. Suddenly, the man got up and took the girl by the shoulder. He advised her to get up, discarding absolutely everything, because she is not the kind of person who will stop here. Wendy wanted to cry, but apparently all her tears had dried long ago. The teacher added that everything will be fine, and instead of pain, comfort warmed her heart. The only person who was always on her side, and the only reason for such immersion in work only because paying this debt even to death, it would not be enough. Thanks to the teacher, she became much better. Because of her stupid crush, she remembers Aiden, but it's nothing more than the stupid aftermath of that night. As soon as she left for Shakma's office, her subordinates immediately relaxed. The students were incredibly excited about the party. They started preparing for the holiday 30 minutes before 5. Although there are many unfinished business, today's joy is much more important to them than tomorrow's hardships. So tonight, they are drinking themselves to death. The picture is very familiar every time they get drunk. The room is a mess, many people are already lying down, and Rossi, as always, confesses his love to Wendy. This happens all the time. Suddenly, Aiden approached Rossi. He offered to walk with her. And the girl, who never listened to anyone when she was drunk, suddenly went peacefully into the boy's arms. Aiden seemed like a charmer to Wendy, because to deal with a girl with such ease, it must be a real wizard. In addition, the young man is quite strong, even without the use of magic. Suddenly, the girl guessed what was happening here. Aiden is just good at hypnosis. The woman assumed that he had also hypnotized her that same morning, but the young man assured that he did not use anything like that against her, and that Rossi was just drunk. Still, the boy agreed that he knew how to use hypnosis, and Wendy most likely did not succumb to the effects of magic. So the young man was unlikely to use something against her, and even if he did, such a thought would not even arise in her head. The girl was impressed by the guy, but still she showed herself not from the best side. She turned and walked away, but Aiden stopped her. He apologized for making her angry. The young man took her hand and hugged her. The man fell to his feet and started apologizing. She didn't understand why he was doing it, because he was not guilty of anything. Suddenly there was a knock at the door, and Wendy went to open it. Aiden followed her, and the lady repeated her orders not to follow her, but he shouted that he did not agree with this. His voice did not sound as usual. The heroine turned around and asked what exactly he disagreed with. The guy said that he did not agree with the order not to accompany her. Aiden asked what exactly was the problem with the woman constantly pushing him away. He thought that he was taking steps too quickly. The young man was right. He moves their relationship too quickly. Aiden said that he knows about how difficult it is for Wendy to open up to other people. But he starts to hurry more and more. That's why he can't obey her order. The heroine had only one reason why she did not cut off all ties with the boy. She saw her own one-sided love. The only problem with this is that the woman was simply soothing herself in this way. After these thoughts, the girl sat down under the door and began to cry, although she does this very rarely. The guy knocked on them, and it did not bring results. It took Wendy an incredible amount of time to accept another person. She didn't like getting close to someone so quickly that she distanced herself from the boy even more, and hoped that he would cool down. The worst part was that the girl didn't hate Aiden Winter. She hated herself. After all this, they sat down to drink tea together. Wendy asked why the boy was crying. The reason for the boy's tears were the thoughts that the girl started to hate him. But Wendy reassured the young man, because she is not so kind as to leave someone whom she hates near her. She was simply uncomfortable because the boy is always in a hurry. Aiden asked if giving up his passion for her would fix the situation. The girl said that the problem is not in forgiveness. Besides, the young man did not blame her in any way. She just never wanted to get married because she hates restrictions. Wendy did not want to deceive the boy anymore. She said that she does not believe in eternal love at all, and that she will not be able to become a truly good person. More than that, she is afraid to just be left alone, because one side of those identical feelings will turn out to be wrong. Aiden assured the woman that she had already become a good enough person for him. The heroine asked what exactly she did for him. In addition, the young man does not know her at all, but already calls her good. He doesn't even suspect how she treated him and why she allowed him to stay around. But the guy replied that he knows the reason for this. He watched her all the time, so he knows how she feels about him. Wendy was surprised by this answer. Different thoughts conflicted in her head. She was afraid that the boy had really bitten her. The girl shouted at the boy and asked why he does not stop in his pursuit of romantic relations with her if he knows everything. Why wasn't he sick of it yet? In response to this, the boy only smiled. Wendy did not understand how he could be smiling at such a moment. She did not understand how in one night you can make sure that the feelings will last a lifetime. The young man calmly replied that he was just sure of it. But Wendy replied that at this time he can start a relationship with someone he likes even more, and his feelings will quickly change. Even though the boy said it was wrong, Wendy continued, "After all, if Aiden wants to get married after one night spent together, then he would treat any other girl the same way." She did not understand why the young man was so sure that his feelings were directed at her. But the guy answered briefly that he likes her. The woman continued her arguments and added that they may not be suitable for each other. But Aiden replied that at least at night they are perfect for each other, and she knows it well. Wendy thought that these were all just provocations. The young man asked for another chance. He assured that he would prove that his feelings are much stronger. After all, he trembles even from one touch of her skin. His heart is beating as if he is about to die. He approached the girl to kiss her and added that if she doesn't like something, she can push him away. But for Wendy, the boy's touches were just as pleasant. They ignited a spark in her. The couple began to kiss passionately. The girl jumped on top of the boy, and they continued kissing in each other's arms. If someone saw it from the side, they would think that she is the happiest woman in the world. The young man put Wendy on the couch, but the lady added that Aiden had promised to prove his love, so he needed more effort. The boy could barely contain himself. He asked to stop because he did not want to hurt her. And luring him even more, he will not be able to hold back. But Wendy replied that she likes determination, and after that she kissed the boy. After the time spent together, the girl lost her voice. Aiden went to get water, because the girl's mouth was completely dry. Looking at the boy, the lady was amazed at how perfect he was physically. He was really strong. Besides, he is strong like a wizard. Wendy thought that it was all because the boy was quite young. This incident was not accidental. She herself provoked it. Although her heart was not as hot as Aiden's, she has no regrets. Aiden brought the girl water. She just wanted to hug the boy. Suddenly, she stopped moving and added that she would not do anything. So he has to figure out how to make her drink. Without thinking long, Aiden filled his mouth with water and filled the girl's mouth with water through a kiss. Now, it didn't seem like such a bad start. Whatever the start, Aiden came very close, and she couldn't resist him. The boy broke the kiss. Wendy asked what happened. The young man liked everything, and it seemed to him that if they continued, he would not be able to stop. He believed that the problem was precisely her endurance. Wendy really had the lowest endurance among all magicians. A little before Aiden came to his senses, he noticed how much the girl was panting. The woman felt cold, so she lit the fire with just one gesture. Aiden thought it was a wordless spell, but in fact, she simply left a magic circle there in advance that responds to a gesture. In her opinion, using a wordless spell to start a fire is already too much. Although magic circles are difficult to obtain, by placing them just once you can overcome the issue of durability. Wendy had to go wash because she might have a cold, which meant she wouldn't be able to work. She needed to go home. Although it was difficult for her, she got up. Aiden apologized again. But thanks to this, the girl learned about his sincerity towards her. She repeated again that she could not become a good person for him. In addition, she is in love with someone else. Therefore, I decided to end everything here and now. She can't be sure that they both feel the same. Maybe it will take a lot of time. However, if the young man does not mind, he can continue. Although she felt awkward, she couldn't say that she didn't like Aiden's persistence. Suddenly, the boy said Wendy's name and hugged her very tightly. For him, even this decision is a very serious and incredible progress in their relationship. Wendy finally found herself at home. She took a warm bath. The girl was thinking about everything that happened today. She has never been in a normal relationship with anyone. Of course, there are reasons for this, because before there were no suitable candidates. And secondly, she continued to cherish the one-sided love that continued since childhood. Therefore, there were not even opportunities for a real relationship. She made several attempts, but they did not last long. Aiden is the first boyfriend she brought home. Most magicians are individualists. Although the work in the tower is performed in teams, it varies depending on the magical power of each person and the power of individual training. Because of all this, everyone needs a lot of personal time, and it is considered very tactless to interfere with them. Even members of the laboratory with whom she worked for 7 years could not come to her home. Aiden came up behind Wendy. He decided to give her a neck and head massage. The woman invited him to join as well, but the guy replied that all the water would flow out if he joined. The girl thought about changing her favorite bath with incredible ease. It seemed incredibly strange to her. The guy noticed that the foam would fall on her face. Therefore, he offered to cover her face with a towel. Wendy refused this offer. After all, in this case, he will not be able to see him. Aiden added that the girl could fall asleep. Surprisingly, she was very comfortable even next to another person. It was a very strange feeling for her. The next day when the woman came, her subordinates had just come to their senses. Wendy told that they had been drinking in the evening and added that the alcoholic habits of her subordinates could lead to negative consequences. Rossi wanted to argue with Wendy, but lost almost immediately, because the heroine is simply a master of answering briefly and beautifully. Then, everyone started asking Aiden where he was and what he was doing. But the boy replied that no matter how hard he tried to wake him up, all his efforts were in vain. One of the subordinates was sad, because he hoped that at least this time they would be able to visit Wendy's house. That woman did not understand such a desire. Rossi could not explain why she so badly wanted to go to the manager's house, and simply began to ask to be invited at least once. But the heroine only coldly replied that she did not want to do this. Rossi was angry and wanted to go somewhere. Wendy quickly realized this, so she immediately forbade her to go out anywhere. For yesterday's rest, everything needs to be worked out, so they set to work. Subordinates called Miss Wendy cruel. But there was a lack of time. There were a few hours left before lunch, so I had to work hard. Due to a hangover, the subordinates could not get together. The desire to sleep and rest was much stronger than the motivation to work. Tim drank not the first bottle of energy, because without it, he will not be able to do anything at all. Rossi once again made a remark to the young man about energy drinks, because they can harm men's health. This component of health bothered the boy the least, because it was much more important to simply survive. Wendy let the boy go outside for some air, because he was almost done with his work anyway. The woman felt guilty in front of her subordinates and did not pretend. Logan and Rossi began to envy the boy, and suddenly their wife let them breathe. But Rossi immediately refused, because if they go for a walk, they will only prolong this hellish torment. Wendy asked to try a little harder, and when they are done with it, the woman will give them a little leave. On the faces of subordinates, there was surprise that cannot be described in words. Wendy added that it's time for Rossi and Nick to get married, because they've been engaged for over 3 years. This cannot be postponed any longer. Each laboratory must perform a certain volume of work. If it does not cope with this, then state support decreases and the department falls into unequal conditions along with others. Wendy had wanted to organize a vacation for the couple for a long time, but if she lost 2 workers at once, all research would stop immediately. Now that things are better, the woman would like to give the young people a vacation because Rossi has been dreaming of a lavish wedding for a long time. Perhaps it will be possible to give them several months of leave. Suddenly, the heroine did not have time to blink as the month passed, which means that the period that she and Aiden agreed on has ended. This time, their projects are much more successful, and they may be able to recruit more talented participants. While Wendy worked tirelessly, huge changes took place, namely the presence of Aiden Winter, after he began to visit her home, then naturally took a place in the girl's life. Another novelty was that his things began to appear in her house from time to time. Come to think of it, every time she went home, Aiden accompanied her. His merit is also in the rapid completion of projects. Despite the fact that there are employees in the laboratory, Wendy personally completed each of the projects, and it was thanks to Aiden that she was not distracted by household chores, which helped her work at such a great speed. She has no choice but to admit that Aiden is the perfect partner. He is focused, loyal, and loving. Wendy would like to say the same to him, and she doesn't even know what he likes. The guy knows absolutely everything about her, but she knows literally nothing about him. Wendy didn't know if they really needed to get married. After all, even though Aiden is nice to her, everything suits her anyway. If nothing changes after the wedding, then what is the point of it? Aiden asked. Does the woman really dislike the wedding so much, and Wendy just can't imagine how it will all turn out? but the young man still infinitely wanted to marry the heroine. Suddenly, Wendy agreed. She wouldn't be able to bear it if the boy cried again. Although, if the boy's words were to be believed, he wasn't crying anymore. The woman hugged the boy and whispered that she even liked the way the young man cried. Wendy liked the boy's always emotional reaction, and she just couldn't stop herself from joking. Aiden really obeys the woman in everything, which means that this issue is really very important for him. She doesn't want to turn him down just for stupid reasons. Still, she would still like to keep it a secret from the wizarding people for a while. Because of her experiences, she still cannot dare to reveal even a part of her personal life to them. Wendy offered to visit the temple tomorrow, and Aiden wanted to go to his hometown, to his parents' house. Although it was obvious, it was a little strange to her because she has no family, no city, no home. The girl agreed. She was interested in learning more about the young man. Aiden was very grateful for that. 3 subordinates gathered in the laboratory. They almost finished their work, and this is only thanks to Aiden's help. Logan hoped that everything would work out for him, otherwise he wouldn't last. Logan gathered his thoughts and dared to summon the blue light. Well, it really worked out for him. It was very bright. The boy was incredibly glad that he was able to cope. Finally, this hellish project that took so much effort from them is already completed. Wendy complimented the group. They had all done very well, and at least each of them had moved up a level. The heroine decided to go and report about it. Tim wanted to walk with her and Aiden, but because the subordinate was awake for a huge amount of time, he looked more like a zombie. That's why she refused him. The subordinates wanted to go and report the next day, but Wendy decided not to delay. After all, why allocate a whole day to a matter that has already been completed? It is much better to submit everything at once as soon as possible so that they can confirm the long vacation. The subordinates cannot believe what they are hearing. Soon they will go on their dream vacation. Wendy came to the control room in the wizard's tower. The secretary was surprised because Wendy's group never took a vacation. He offered her a year's leave, and she only needed 3 months. The girl asked Aiden if 3 months would be enough for them to go on vacation. She wanted to know where they would go. But the boy did not want to tell. No matter how much the woman asked for an answer, she heard only the same thing. The guy said that she would find out about everything when they left. The laboratory she manages was a mess. The subordinates left their workplaces so quickly that they forgot to clean up after themselves. Finally, Tim and Rossi are going to get married. This holiday they have been putting off for so long, and now it has all come true. At that moment, Wendy realized that she herself had a wedding soon, and she began to remember everything that needed to be done at the ceremony. She knows less about weddings than a dear child. After all, I was never interested in them. After much thought, the woman came to terms with this, and decided that all this should be simply accepted and act according to the situation. Aiden came. He read the notation to the girl, because she was sitting in an uncomfortable position, which later led to back pain. But Wendy wasn't very interested in how to sit properly, so she asked to be left alone, because she still won't listen to any advice. The man noticed how difficult the character of his beloved is. She didn't like it. The young man spoke like an adult. Aiden apologized and just wanted to say it more softly, but it was no different. But there was a difference for Aiden. He thought of Wendy as a little child. The woman began to ask the boy if he really planned to marry her, because in addition to their wedding, they had to celebrate the wedding of Nick and Rossi. The man replied that this time should be enough for all matters. Wendy wasn't sure about that, because it wasn't just about time. But the young man said that everything will be prepared in his homeland. The girl continued to grumble, and he just smiled at her. Wendy started to argue. A guy can't just smile, and everything will take care of itself, even if he is handsome. Aiden asked if the girl thinks he is handsome. She replied that only because of that and forgives his transgressions. Still, the girl was interested in finding out exactly where they were going, and she did not understand why the boy would not share the information. Aiden replied that the whole difficulty lies in the fact that such a place simply does not exist on the map. Wendy wondered if he came from some ethnic minority. Aiden replied that it can be called that. People do not like this minority very much. The girl sat surprised. Aiden shocked the girl. Tomorrow they are leaving for his homeland. Wendy is surprised by the large number of secrets of the guy. She added that men who have many secrets often cheat on their loved ones. But the young man kept everything a secret only because he was afraid that the girl would get angry and leave him. Wendy assured the boy that as long as he remained himself, she would not leave him. But suddenly, she changed her mind and added that she might quit. Arriving at the place, Wendy did not stop being surprised. It was a dragon's lair. Dragons are a strong and noble species, and their total number does not exceed 3 digits. Any information about the bottom is covered with a veil. So much is still unknown to people. The only thing people were able to find out was that the dragons had created a nest called the Dragon's Lair and were staying there. Aiden asked if the girl was mad at him. She replied that she could not help but be angry with him because he is a representative of the strongest race. No person in their right mind would try to confront such creatures. Wendy got really angry, but the boy tried to calm her down as best he could. A dragon's nest, this vault is filled with loads of treasure. But the girl is not strongly drawn into the middle. She asked a completely logical question. She asked Aiden if he was a dragon and what he was up to. After all, how can she marry a dragon? The girl thought that it was just such a joke on a person, but the boy wasn't going to make fun of her. After all, turning from a dragon into a human for the sake of a joke is a stupid prank. Although the girl thought that he did all this for a joke, the boy tried to prove otherwise. Wendy was angry. She wanted to go home. The girl was completely unprepared for such a turn of events. Aiden began to ask the girl to wait, because she promised him that she would not leave him as long as it was him. The heroine could not understand why the young man wanted to show his real self, because he could just pretend to be a person until her death. The girl's heart was broken. The appearance of Aiden Winter was a lie. It shocked her much more than the fact that he turned out to be a dragon. All his sincerity was a sham. Aiden begged her to believe him because he didn't want to deceive her. Wendy shouted at the boy not to lie, but the young man replied that if he wanted to deceive her, he would never have brought her here. The man did not want to lie and hide the truth, because he really likes it. Only for this reason he brought the heroine here. He didn't even think about playing a joke on her, and if he had, he wouldn't have revealed himself until the very end. The guy told the girl that he loved her. Wendy asked why he said that after cheating on her. But suddenly the young man replied that he never said that he was a man. But more than anything, he wanted to tell the truth, even if the girl scolded him a lot. Now Wendy understood why the boy asked not to leave him. The girl decided that she would not forgive him so quickly, and asked what his real name was. Surprisingly, his name was indeed Aiden, just Aiden. The guy ran up behind and hugged the girl. Wendy ordered to let her go immediately, but Aiden wouldn't do it because he was afraid she would leave him. The heroine assured the boy that she will not leave him as long as it is him. Besides, she does not want to lose her magic, which is as dear to her as her own blood, just because of one promise. Therefore, she ordered him to let her go. After thinking about everything a little, she realized that he really could live with her until her death and not even reveal his identity. And despite this, he showed his essence and continued to love her. She was sure of the sincerity of the boy's actions, but she still did not understand why she would do that, because if you think about it, his speed was very different from hers from the beginning, and his feelings were so deep that it was difficult to control them. For some unknown reason, she still decided to take a risk and ordered to lead her. Wendy wanted to go in and listen to the boy and hear all his secrets, although it will be difficult for her to trust him again. They sat down to talk. It turned out that Aiden knew about Wendy long before he came to the Tower of Sorcerers. He planned all this. The girl did not doubt her guesses. Wendy asked the boy all the details, but he tried to answer not directly, but sometimes veiled. The lady asked not to do so because it is difficult for her to understand everything now and without it. The guy was afraid that Wendy would take him for a pervert. Besides, he is also a liar. And this is enough not to get married. Aiden began to talk about the times when she was little. He asked if she remembered where she lived. Wendy immediately opened the map. The boy pointed to one place. It was Marta's territory. They saw each other there, although not for long. The girl could not believe it because she still remembers the faces of all the people from that village. But the boy added that he looked completely different then. Wendy knew that even after the transformation, the face does not change completely. Aiden said that he was not human, after which he barked. She did not understand what the boy was doing. But after a second, the whole picture formed in her head. The boy was reading a book specifically about dragons. One of their strongest weaknesses was their ideality. Due to the fact that there were very few individuals similar to him, extinction was simply inevitable. Aiden closed the book and called the dragons miserable. His friend replied that now is not the time for the boy to laugh, because he is one of these unfortunates. The beloved of the main character was not a simple representative of the dragon family. He was the first to be born among the family of black dragons for a long time. The peculiarity of this breed is a terrible temperament and an incredibly beautiful appearance with a bad character in the middle. Because of their limitless power, they become reckless and impudent. Even other dragons find it difficult to make contact with them. At the time of puberty, Aiden had to return to the nest, and many fights with other dragons awaited him. But he was confident in his perfection, because he simply has an incredible amount of magical power. It was difficult to communicate with the boy. His peers had a good character, and it was easy to get along with them. Meanwhile, Aiden had great pride. He was not interested in anything, and it was not at all clear what he was thinking about. Then, when the boy was young, he was ordered to go to the yard, because he had not breathed fresh air for 10 years. It was then that the boy turned into a dog, so he felt much freer. After a little walk, Aiden was about to go home, when suddenly something bubbled nearby. It seemed strange to him, because all the animals in the vicinity should have felt his energy and hid. He went to check what exactly was the source of the sound. Just then, he saw little Wendy throwing pebbles into the water. He began to worry about the girl, because someone could harm her. But after thinking a little, Aiden realized that he is the most dangerous creature in the neighborhood. The young man decided to look after her until the girl returned home. Wendy looked weak, so much so that it seemed her life could be ended with incredible ease. Seeing the dog, the girl threw a stone near him and then came up. This surprised Aiden, because he expected that the girl would just be scared of him. But suddenly, she started stroking the dog. She called him a good boy, and noticed that he was quite kind. Although Aiden understood how lucky the girl was that he was not a real dog. After all, the young lady could get hurt by reaching out her hands to the animal so thoughtlessly. She spoke to the dog, giving her name. Wendy said that she was looking for a place where she could spend the night safely. Even though it's summer, it's still cold at night. In addition, the wild animals around are a big danger. The girl felt safe with the dog, and the family will still not look for her. Wendy asked what she should call the dog. She'd already fed him well, and suddenly hugged him. Wendy Blanchette was an amazing child. Not only did she spend the night alone in the woods, she was not afraid or isolated from Aiden in the form of a dog. She named him Winter. She tried to teach the dog some commands, and when Aiden obeyed her commands and sat down, the girl hugged him and called him very smart. Aiden was surprised by how the girl treated him like a dog, despite the fact that he is a dark dragon, the most dangerous creature in the world. The girl said that she does not want to play with children her age because she is much smarter than them, and she is simply not interested in them. Wendy was happy to come to the forest every day. At first, Aiden thought that Wendy just had a difficult character, but later noticed that she is smarter than her peers, and her innate magical abilities were amazing. Besides, no one taught her this. Aiden was sure that with such a talent she could become a supreme sage. If he could talk, he would teach her magic. But the girl does not need a teacher, but a forest that will listen to her. Lying on the grass, the girl told the dog about a difficult choice, because the younger sister who recently appeared in her family was very cute, but they would not be able to feed her. Wendy thought about disappearing in order to save her younger sister from death. After that, she hugged the dog and said that she only needed him, after which she immediately fell asleep. The next morning, Aiden watched what the girl did as soon as she woke up. She looked in one direction, expecting only one. No matter how grown up the girl was, she still waited and hoped that her parents would worry about her at least a little and go in search of her. Although Aiden is next to Wendy, he won't be able to stay for long because he will soon go into hibernation, and then the girl will be alone again. Although earlier this time limit seemed normal to him, now he begins to worry about the girl's fate. Aiden returned to Bios and wanted to ask him about hibernation. He wanted to move her a little. The man laughed at the boy and added that he could see how much the boy liked being a dog. The young man was very angry, and Bios asked him not to be so angry because he was just worried about him. That's why I decided to look after him. The man added that this girl is not worth his obsession with her. He won't have time to even blink his eyes, as all ordinary people will grow old and die. Although he cannot understand this feeling now, when he wakes up from hibernation, he will look at the world differently. But Aiden wanted to be with Wendy at least until she died, because people's lives go by so quickly anyway. As soon as the boy realized what he said, he immediately asked Bios to forget about this conversation. The man only replied that first love never ends well, but Aiden got angry. He didn't think it was funny. The boy really felt sorry for her. The guy assured that Wendy is not his first love. Bios was very surprised by this behavior, because Aiden, who was previously indifferent to everything, suddenly began to turn into a dog every day, and run into the forest to meet a human girl. In addition, the young man behaved like an obedient dog, suppressing all his impudence. Anyone who sees him will say that he is just a young man who is not even aware of his own love. Aiden pondered Bios's words. He didn't understand how he could be in love with a human child. Meanwhile, the girl threw a stick at Aiden. She thought that dogs like such games. The girl understood that Winter was not like everyone else, and hugged the dog tightly. She ordered the dog to sit, and the boy obeyed her command. After that, Wendy ordered to lie down, and Aiden lay down. He tried to obey the orders and also keep his pride. Aiden noticed that before the girl stroked him quickly and carelessly, but now slowly and gently. He liked it better. Sitting with the child in his arms, he pondered the words of Bios. Suddenly the dog stood up quickly. Aiden understood that hibernation was impossible, so he had little time. He hoped that the girl would not miss him. Aiden licked the girl goodbye. He was really worried about her. A few days later, Aiden watched Wendy. He wanted the girl to remember him at least a little. He hoped the child would not be hurt because of him. Wendy is just a little child who began to rely on him. He wished her only the best. Bios interrupted the boy and again indicated that the girl was his first love. Watching her, Bios saw how she uses magical energy. This is rare among people and is considered an incredible talent. Unfortunately, this gift will be useless due to the low origin of the child. The man asked what they would do, but Aiden didn't know what to say. Bios, meanwhile, hinted that a member of the dark race would politely ask him for a favor. However, Bios apologized and added that he just wanted to make a joke about Aiden, although it is really a pity to lose such a talented person with high magical potential. Suddenly, Aiden curtly asked the man to do it. Bios could not believe his ears, and the boy still said that this was not his first love. Aiden's words and actions contradicted each other. Bios assured that he would make an agreement with a sorcerer he knew. Aiden wondered how beautiful the girl would be when she grew up. The next day, the boy came again. The girl was also waiting for him. She already began to worry that Winter would not return. The girl hugged the dog as tightly as possible and said that she was very afraid that they would not meet again. She asked the dog not to go anywhere else, because she only needs him. A lot of time had passed, but to Aiden it seemed like just one night. Bios met him. He congratulated the boy on his coming of age. He added that he saw an upset boy, that the first person he saw was Bios. Aiden's temperament has not changed at all, even after the process of growing up. Bios asked if the young man would like to learn a little etiquette, but the guy said that even if he learns good manners, his relationship with a man will not change in any way. Bios said that dragons become stronger with age, and everyone around is already asleep and sees how Aiden will stop being like this. The boy replied that the man should control what he says, but Bios replied that he might be the same ancient dragon that would get angry and kill him. Aiden didn't care about that. He was only interested in Wendy. Bios pretended not to understand him, but the young man's fiery gaze sharply refreshed the man's memory. Although he thought that after hibernation, the boy would forget about her. Dragon hibernation not only strengthens the magic and the body, but is also a process of transitioning the mind to a new level. After awakening, he should have become dispassionate towards everything, but this did not happen. Bios was surprised how the first thing he was interested in after waking up was Wendy. He asked the boy what would happen if the girl died. Aiden sharply asked how long he had been hibernating. Bios replied that the boy slept for about 20 years, and people die very quickly. But Aiden remembered the man's promise that he would not let the girl die. But Bios easily answered that he only promised not to let the girl die of hunger. He was not going to protect her from everything. Aiden pounced on the man and ordered him to tell him the truth. Bios decided to end with jokes. He told that Wendy took Shakum. This is his familiar sorcerer. Although he is picky, he is still merciful. He is a very interesting person. Besides, he is capable of many things. If Wendy Blanchett still hasn't fallen ill with an incurable disease, hasn't gotten into trouble, then most likely she should be with him. Bios asked if the young man would look for her. Aiden wanted to make sure that the girl was really all right. But Bios reminded again that the first love does not end well. Besides, that human child must have completely forgotten about him. Aiden still assured that Wendy was not his first love, but Bios understood that until the boy was sure of this himself, he would not understand anything. The boy asked where exactly Shakma was. Bios told him about the Tower of Sorcerers. In this place, people were just discussing the fact that the last student of the Great Shakma was a young civil servant of the 3rd level. Wendy became so popular that Aiden could not even believe that this is the same child he saw near the lake. Fortunately, at least she did not die. He approached the tower, and though vaguely, he still smelled it. But he did not know where she was, whether she had changed much. Suddenly, Wendy, passing by the boy, immediately made a remark to him, ordering him to move away. The young man caught his breath. She had not changed at all. He had wanted to see her eyes for a long time. All the time, he incredibly missed her sky-blue eyes. Strangely, and suddenly, he felt something in his heart that had never happened to him before, because he just wanted to look at the child who had grown up. He remembered Bios's words about Wendy being his first love. The girl took the boy's hands and asked if he was in pain. She reassured him and added that she would not harm him. Touching the young man's forehead, Wendy said that he had a slight temperature. Most likely the boy has caught a cold, so he should return home. But Aiden replied that everything is fine with him, and he feels great. Wendy replied curtly that the boy was lying to her. She added that you don't need to show your character, and you can just go home and rest. Without delay, the young man agreed with her, and Wendy called Aiden a good man. She patted his head and wished him a good trip. The young man watched Wendy walk towards his subordinates and could not gather his thoughts. He was incredibly pleased. After all, the girl really turned out to be his first love. Rossi suddenly asked what Wendy's ideal type of boyfriend was, but she did not answer, because this information will not help subordinates anywhere. But the girl was just curious, because her manager refused all boys, regardless of how good they were. Wendy said that to begin with, he should be handsome and tall, besides, smart, kind, and always obey her. Also, Wendy is not good at housework, so it would be good if he could cook. And the most important thing for a woman is that the guy is cute. Overhearing the conversation, Aiden wrote down the girl's favorite type. That was the end of the boy's story. He added that during his 20 years of hibernation, he only thought about Wendy. The girl did not know how to react to this. She was confused. She just listened carefully to the boy. After that, she ordered the young man to shut up. She could not even think that everything would turn out like this. But Aiden added that when Wendy relied on him, he was really very happy, because for him, all his life, there was only her. The guy took the lady's hand and put it to his chest. He added that she can take his heart if she wants. Suddenly, the girl hit the guy right in the forehead and added that he should not call her name because she is still angry. After that, the girl hugged the boy to her and said that Aiden is exactly the same as that smart dog. A single confession expresses all his sincerity. The only thing the girl can be sure of is that Aiden Winter is weak in front of her. The next day, the girl woke up in a comfortable bed. She slept well, but thought that her head would explode from yesterday. She wanted to stop her thoughts and fall asleep. As always, Aiden watched the girl sleep, and he quietly left, leaving her alone. Surprisingly, she slept well in the dragon's lair. Suddenly, the young man knocked on the door and asked if the lady had woken up. Wendy asked what time it was. The guy answered that shortly before noon. He decided not to wake her up because she was completely powerless. The girl again reminded the boy to stop addressing her formally because he is older than her. But suddenly, Aiden replied that he was much more used to it. Besides, he likes it. The boy seemed to her a strange dragon. She imagined them completely different in childhood. But suddenly, Wendy wondered if some elves or dwarves were exploiting the boy in this way. But the young man replied that he behaves like that only in front of her. Aiden invited the girl to breakfast, but she refused, saying that she was not hungry. This surprised the boy because she did not eat dinner before going to bed. Wendy replied that she never eats 3 times a day. The boy asked the girl to eat at least a little. Wendy saw that even though Aiden seemed soft-spoken, he was really stubborn. The woman was tasting the soup the boy had just cooked. He had learned to cook when he entered the first year of studies at the Tower of Sorcerers. Wendy called the young man's soup perfect. He was incredibly happy because he was learning to cook just for her sake. Because I heard about her love for men who cook well. At this moment, the girl choked. Aiden thought the girl was disappointed in him, but she just finally realized how much he wanted to please her, although Wendy tried to hate the boy. Seeing the boy's sincere love for her, it became really difficult for her to do it. If the choice is between whether she likes him or not, the positive side will win. But still, there is a problem in trusting him. It takes a long time to fill one cut gap, even knowing this Aiden admitted. This again confirmed his only good intentions towards the girl. Wendy asked if dragons got married, because she hadn't heard of that before. The guy said that they usually live alone, but if they meet their partner, they will most likely get married. Speaking about a partner, you cannot be limited to one type. One green dragon chose an old tree as his love, but Wendy replied that even if they became partners, she would still die pretty quickly. Even after living longer than other people, her maximum is 150 years, and that will only happen when she reaches the level of her teacher. The girl noticed that it was quite different from a wedding, but Aiden replied that it was not so. After all, they do it in order to become one family. Since ancient times, throughout all the years, he wanted to become a part of Wendy's family. The girl asked what needs to be done for this. Aiden had a big smile on his face. He couldn't believe that the girl would do it for him. But Wendy replied that she never goes back on her words. She added that, unlike others, she does not lie. The girl was happy when she found out that she could not wear a dress. Aiden was a little sad because of it. But Wendy asked what was needed for them to become partners. The young man said that an oath is necessary for this. These words are full of power. Aiden said that Wendy is very smart, but she replied that there's nothing like that because she knows simple magic. For the wedding, you just have to make a vow that Aiden will become a partner with Wendy. This promise is given in words filled with the same magical power. This is much more serious than showy, lavish wedding ceremonies. The girl agreed and wanted to do it. The boy hugged Wendy. He was very grateful to her for that. But the lady replied that she had not stopped being angry with him. No matter how much the woman thought, she still cannot hate the boy, because she started looking only at his appearance. She was glad that the boy did not seduce a princess or a prince, namely a witch who is locked in her laboratory all day long. Suddenly, she remembered the prince. She wondered how much time had passed since his wedding day. They have never stopped communicating for such a long period of time. But the girl's thoughts were interrupted by a kiss on the lips from Aiden. Hugging Wendy, the boy asked if she sometimes thinks about the same person she likes. The girl laughed and asked if the guy was jealous, but it was still visible on his face. If you put both boys on the scales, then kind will prevail, because the girl and him share, if not love, then at least 10 years of friendship. The lady replied that she needed more time for all this. The guy understood her and thought about something. Suddenly, he asked not to think about that boy right now, because Aiden is now right next to Wendy. The guy didn't ask for much. He just wanted the girl's attention to be focused on him, at least for a moment. The couple sat down on the sofa. The young man took out an ancient book, which Wendy was delighted with. Aiden added that he had a lot of such books and that Wendy could take everything in his den. The guy was admiring the girl, but she asked him not to look at her while she was concentrating on the book, because the point is not that she is not comfortable. Suddenly, a golden bird flew over them, dropping some of its feathers. The couple was surprised by what they saw. Aiden caught this bird. He was very angry with her because she was interfering with his time with Wendy. It was no ordinary bird. It emitted a large amount of light, even if there was no light source nearby. Wendy asked who exactly sent the spirit to them. Aiden calmly replied that it was Rod. The girl was scared because the dragon Rod is the leader who leads the entire dragon family. She asked if the boy was guilty of something in front of him, but the young man assured that he had not done anything wrong. But Rod called him, so he was forced to leave the girl for a while. The boy was angry. He knew that Rod had nothing to do and did not think that it would come to the point that he would send a spirit to summon him. Aiden kissed Wendy and said he would be back soon. Suddenly, the bird that was in the boy's hands broke free and flew right into Wendy's face. A second later, they found themselves in another place. The girl had a bad headache, and Aiden was worried if everything was okay with the lady. Wendy was terribly angry. She wanted to find that shining fool. She literally saved him, and he responded to her goodness with evil. After all, due to the use of teleport without preparation, you can lose half of your body. But the golden-haired boy added that if Aiden had listened to him, this wouldn't have happened. After all, he called them both. The man asked if Aiden thought he could hide the girl from him forever. The young man defended his beloved and added that she does not even belong to the dragon family, so there is no need to respond to the draft. Rod replied that the guy was right. That's why he used such methods, because many people are interested in the girl, and especially those who hate the young dark dragon. All the same, the girl wanted to look into the face of the dragon Rhoda, because it was not for nothing that they had come all this way. The man asked if the girl was the same witch. Wendy was surprised that he knew her, but he answered ambiguously about what he knows about her. Wendy's world was a little shaken because she presented the meeting with Rod in a slightly different, more businesslike atmosphere. And he looks more like a Lovelason, the son of some elite family. Although his appearance is dazzling, it is impossible to look at this beautiful hair and eyes calmly. Rod asked why the girl was looking at him so closely, and if it was because of his incredibly good looks. Wendy just agreed with him, and Aiden asked if she was serious about it. Afterwards, the man asked how Shakma was doing. This was another surprise for her, and Rod and her mentor have been good friends for a long time. Rod said that Shakma is a great person. Despite all his merits, he likes his character the most. Wendy confirmed the words of the dragon, because her mentor is a person with a strong character. The man noticed that the lady had adopted all his good qualities. In principle, it is quite expected that Shakma has a dragon among her friends. Aiden noticed that the girl is not shy at all. Rod said that Shakma often talked about her. Wendy expected that most likely these were not compliments, because he is unlikely to praise someone easily. The dragon replied that it was not praise. The great sage was just showing off, and Rod was jealous that he did not have such a cute student. After all his students are not cute children at all, and Aiden is the least cute of them all. Wendy wondered why Rod was looking after the children. The man said that dragons have a very vague idea about blood relations, so even without giving birth to a child, they can sincerely care for it. The man asked if the girl knew that the dragon's heart stores mana in itself. Wendy confirmed this, and added that the heart is a very precious magical tool that produces unlimited mana. 400 years ago, a group of 20 people was gathered. It included sorcerers and knights, and their goal was to kill the dragon. Although they managed to find and kill one of the representatives of the dragon family, most of the group paid for it with their lives. Those who remained alive lost their arms and legs in the battle, so they also died quickly. The dragon they defeated was a green dragon, the weakest of the representatives of the dragon family, but for people, it was an incredibly strong opponent. That's why the dragon hunters made it their goal to kill at least the little dragons, so Rod looks after them before they become full-fledged. Wendy asked if the man looked after Aiden in the same way. Rod added that he not only looked after him, but also raised him. In fact, he just pretended not to know anything, and he himself was very interested in who Aiden chose. He apologized for his behavior. The woman easily forgave him because he is a friend of her mentor. Aiden took Wendy's hand and added that if they were done talking, it was time for them to go. The boy endured with all his strength, and Wendy had already learned about his terrible character, so she allowed him not to hold back. But he would not want to raise his voice in the presence of his beloved. Rod guessed that this would be the case, because Aiden ran away right after he came of age. The guardian did not even have time to give him the gift he had prepared in honor of his coming of age. The man thought about becoming a witness of their vow and giving a gift in memory of it. Aiden immediately wanted to refuse, but Wendy liked the idea. Aiden was surprised by his beloved's answer, but she replied that they had no reason to refuse. The guy said that he could also give her something. Wendy replied that she needed nothing but very ancient and rare artifacts. As expected, this is the weakness of all witches. In addition, if it will be a free gift from the dragon Rod himself, and if he forcibly brought the couple to such a place, then most likely it is something very special and incredible. Rod asked to wait. He had to inspect his warehouse with precious stones. Wendy added that the man might not be in a hurry. Aiden noticed that if Rod appeased her with an artifact, she would simply turn a blind eye to it. Wendy replied that if Rod would be so indisputable that he could buy her heart. But the young man interrupted her words and put his hand to his heart. He asked if she liked his dragon heart. Wendy asked not to joke like that, even if she didn't like it. It puts too much pressure on her. Aiden kissed the girl's hand and added that it belonged entirely to the witch. Still, she decided to refuse him. Hearing this, the boy was happy. He hugged her tightly. The girl remembered everything she had heard about the oath. Her great teacher Shakma said that such words have great power, and the moment she makes a verbal oath, she can no longer change their power. If the girl breaks her oath, she will lose the right to be a witch, and all magic will simply disappear from her body. The teacher patted the child on the head and added that Wendy should take the oath given in words very seriously. She must have remembered it very well. She mentally apologized to her teacher because when she realized what she had done, she didn't know how to get out of the situation. She could not think that she would ever have a husband, and now he is getting married, not even to a simple person, but to a dragon. After the wedding, nothing will change at all, because the department for studying magical laws will still be very important for her. If she had to choose between Aiden and research, she would choose work without hesitation. Although Aiden told the girl that he wanted to become her family, It is impossible to do it just by wanting to. Rod said that from the first day he knew that everything would be like that, although he was against it from the very beginning, because Aiden was a simple boy who fell in love with the madness. Wendy asked if it was true, and the boy confirmed everything and added that he fell in love with the girl at first sight. It is not clear why, and she became incredibly ashamed. Rod only said that he was still amazed that the woman was able to tame the black dragon. He added that the character of black dragons stands out even among representatives of his species. Wendy replied that the Aiden she knows is very sensitive and tearful, so much so that she doubted that the young man could become her husband. After all, a man should be at least a little tougher. Rod could not believe what he heard. The girl seemed to be talking about someone completely different. Wendy added that it's probably not bad to be a witch's husband for 100 years, because human life ends quite quickly compared to a dragon's. The man wanted to ask if the witch didn't know about one thing, but Aiden let him know that he couldn't do that. Rod then asked if the woman knew that this oath was her choice. Rod asked if Wendy Blanchett and Aiden could swear to accept each other as partners and be together for the rest of their lives. Without thinking, Aiden immediately agreed, and Wendy was lost in thought for a moment. Although they had known each other since childhood, they had actually met only 3 months ago. Aiden skillfully hid his background and was very direct and soft-spoken, but when the guy was hiding something from her, he had a completely different face. The only thing the girl can be truly sure of is that Aiden really loves her madly. She didn't know if she could get married knowing only this, but coming here, she did it because she wanted to fulfill this wish. Everything is in order, because even taking an oath with the consent of both parties, its meaning can be changed. Wendy understood that the time had come to respond to the boy's sincerity. The girl shouted yes. Aiden smiled and began to glow with blue light, releasing a bit of his mana. Suddenly, this mana moved to the girl's heart. She felt an incredible pain in the middle, as if her heart was about to explode. Aiden asked the girl to hold on a little longer. All this happened because the heart that the boy gave her connects with her magic. When the girl came to her senses and realized what the boy had done, she became very angry. And Aiden only said that it was his gift to her. Wendy wanted to destroy the boy, but her magic didn't even scratch the boy. Raj asked her to just talk to him. The girl shouted that there is a limit to everything and that he had no right to change her life. The transfer of the dragon's heart is much more than just a gift. From that moment, she is no longer human. Wendy considered herself a fool because she agreed to all this, pretending that the event was inevitable. Nevertheless, the witch added that things would not go that way. She took Aiden by the shirt and asked what he was thinking, because crying and clinging to her this time, he was not going to get away. But the boy added that he had no other choice. Wendy didn't know what else she had to do for the boy. After all, she forgave his deception, agreed to marry him. The young man replied that he knew that one day the girl just wanted to leave him and run away, and he got too angry and couldn't control himself. The boy fell to the ground, but the girl ordered him not to cry, but he was not going to do that. Wendy replied that even knowing this would not change anything now. She noticed that the boy enjoyed deceiving her. The lady asked what is the meaning of the wedding, partners, and other things. Whatever the guy says does not justify his actions. This is violence against her. Wendy walked away and told them not to follow her. Aiden had no right to even touch her. If he follows her again, she will never look at him again in her life. Rod added that the witch was too harsh in her words, but she only apologized for ruining their lair. The girl promised to apologize to him officially next time. Meanwhile, the emotions that Aiden feels reach her. He was filled with despair, anxiety, pain, and torment. But among all these feelings, she cannot find pity. After that, the girl teleported in an unknown direction. Rod turned to the boy. He said that Aiden should have told Wendy everything first and how to explain it. But the young man did not want to do this, because in this case, the girl would run away. Bios replied that he did nothing better with this act either. Rod shouted at the boy. He told the young man to look at himself from the side, how he looks in this situation. But Aiden didn't care. Even if the woman does not love him now, he is ready to wait as long as necessary. Besides, he couldn't leave her to die. Meanwhile, Wendy was sitting in Ross, looking angry. The subordinate asked the woman why she was angry, but the witch replied that she was not angry at all. She has nothing to be angry about because she met the bride who is about to get married. Rossi asked about it only for the reason that the woman looks like that. Wendy apologized because she just wanted to vent her anger, but Rossi replied that the woman does so often and that everything is fine. The witch asked when exactly she acted like that, and she thought that she only acted like that when they were finishing projects. Rossi said that during the end of the projects, Logan is more irritable than Wendy. The woman asked if she was speaking too harshly about her lover while he was not around. The bride replied that the boy must learn to control his temper, otherwise he will never marry. No one will take him with such a bad character. Wendy noted that the couple had found a pretty good home. Rossi said that Nick tried very hard and invested a lot of time in his search. The witch asked if she would get tired of them because they worked together, and now they will also live next to each other. But Rossi assured that they did not specifically buy a house next to hers. But Wendy replied that in any case, it turned out exactly like that. The woman noticed that Rossi and Nick always go together, whether at work or at home. The girl replied that they are like clothes for each other. It would be strange to walk without it. Wendy began to wonder what kind of feeling it is when you feel strange when your loved one is not around. Rossi was surprised that the woman even agreed to come for a cup of tea, because she thought that the witch would not consider it necessary, because they often cross paths at work. But there was a good reason for this. Wendy just couldn't do anything, because after she ran away from Aiden, the girl couldn't get rid of her anger. She was very annoyed to feel another heartbeat next to hers. Due to the fact that Aiden's heart melted in her, she could feel everything that he felt. When she felt the feelings of another person, it brought her a terrible mood. In addition, he can now know exactly what is happening in her soul. Now, she was no longer an ordinary person. Suddenly, Rossi asked if the woman was in a bad mood because of Aiden. Wendy asked why the girl thought so, and why should a witch even be in the mood for this jerk? The bride added that the boss had just called the boy a jerk, and therefore she was angry with him. Wendy did not understand how the subordinate found out about it, but it was obvious to the girl because they have known her for a long time. After the vast amount of time they've been through together, it would be surprising if Rossi didn't find out who the woman was mad at. Wendy said that she wanted to go to Martha's territory, but now she changed her mind. It was impossible to allow Rossi to connect the trip to Marta and Aiden. That girl did not want to leave the subject of Aiden and asked Wendy how exactly the boy had wronged her. After all, the subordinate thought that the young man simply crossed the line and got an advantage over others. Wendy didn't understand what the girl was talking about. Rossi said that no one went as far as Aiden, only he managed to move closer to the woman's heart. Due to the fact that the witch world is very small, it is very difficult for someone to just knock and fall into it. Even Rossi, with whom the woman worked, was able to talk about something personal with her only 3 years ago. The subordinate added that there is something magical about this. Wendy noticed that Rossi very well packaged the words that the woman does not like to communicate and has a difficult character. The subordinate added that she had noticed that Aiden was in too much of a hurry. What she heard shocked the witch. She wondered how the girl could feel it. Very deep feelings and care were reflected in only one sentence of Rossi. The woman began to see subordinates from the other side, because they thought about her much more than she could imagine. Rossi directly said that Aiden was to blame for everything, who made the woman really angry at him. Wendy finally replied that it was all true and that she could not forgive him. The girl asked to tell about everything, but the witch could not do it. She added that she hit Aiden too lightly. Rossi was shocked that Wendy slapped such a beautiful face. But after that, the woman forbade talking to her about this topic and ordered the girl to shut her mouth. The subordinate asked what exactly the lady would be doing, and Wendy didn't even want to touch magic, so she offered to help Rossi with the wedding. Hearing such words, the girl doubted whether Wendy was really sitting in front of her, who was only doing what she was devoting herself to work. Rossi is already happy, because she alone is struggling with all the preparations for the wedding. Moreover, besides at home, the bride has many other things to do. Although Wendy is not very good at household chores, she was sure that she would be able to help. The witch had her own solution to all problems, because when there is money, problems are no longer so significant. Rossi asked if the woman would buy all this, to which Wendy calmly answered what will happen. The subordinate was frightened by such a woman's behavior. She asked her to pull herself together. But Wendy did not even look at the things. She ordered to pack them immediately. The women quickly and well bought everything they needed, some of which were even more than needed. Rossi began to lay out the shopping. Seeing how much Wendy spent on all this, the girl was simply stunned. Meanwhile, the witch said that you shouldn't use everything. What will be unnecessary can simply be thrown away. The subordinate could not get away from the number of gifts. Her recently bought home would explode with such a huge number of things. But Wendy replied that the house seemed empty to her, so she decided to fill it. Wendy said that the girl was lucky, and now it's better to be happy about all this, because shyness does not suit her. The witch questioned her subordinate. Maybe she didn't like what she chose. But Rossi replied that she is more than satisfied with everything, and she's incredibly happy with these purchases. Wendy smiled and added that she chose exactly what perfectly suited her taste. Rossi was still a little worried, because these are all expensive things. But the woman said that their salaries are at completely different levels, because she has already reached the 3rd level, and she does not even notice such insignificant amounts. The subordinate could not resist, and replied that the woman looks very tall and at the same time very cool. But Wendy only replied that she already knew about it. The witch saw that Rossi's house had a lot of small things, but it lacked really necessary things, and her lovely subordinates should not be stressed because of this. Otherwise, it will affect the work process. Rossi jokingly added that she should have married her, and not Nick, but the woman was in her thoughts. She came to her senses and answered that she most likely did not agree. Lady added that Wendy is very angry, although Rossi loves her very much. The woman replied that this was enough and offered to go to another street for further shopping. Bios entered the room. He called Aiden and asked him to at least go eat. Suddenly he noticed that the boy was not there. The young man could not stand it and left. After walking through a large number of shops, the women sat down on the bed in agony. Wendy was glad she ordered everything for delivery because the two of them would never have carried so many things home. Rossi noticed a few more packages and wanted to send this too, but the witch assured her that she would carry it herself. The subordinate could not even imagine the difference in salaries, because her brother's salary at the 5th level is many times higher than hers at the 6th. She added that Wendy was 3rd level from an early age. But Rossi did not understand this, because everyone says that other people spend all their money on research. But Wendy was different from them because she is a genius. Such an answer upset the girl so much that she told the boss in her voice about how much she was beating her up. Wendy only asked to control these words and to say such things about herself. Rossi asked about the artifacts because Wendy could not live a day without a good artifact. But now they are not needed because one of the strongest artifacts is already beating next to her heart. Wendy asked how Logan was doing, and the nurse said that he was sick and looked terrible, so every day she sent a bird to check if the boy was alive. The witch joked that at least someone had a good vacation without too much trouble. Rossi was also jealous of him, because her brother could rest just like that. But the woman said that the subordinate has no choice at all, because the girl is a bride who will have a wedding very soon. The women had such a good time that they didn't notice how quickly time passed. It was already getting dark in the yard. Wendy mentioned Nick and asked where he was since he hadn't been seen all day. Rossi said that her fiancé went to the temple to file the necessary documents, although he was already supposed to return. But in principle, everything is obvious, because most likely he is forced to do something, because he is an employee of the Tower of Sorcerers. Wendy said that she was already going home, so she ordered the girl to go get Nick as soon as possible, because apparently he is being used there, and he can't even say a word. Rossi must go and save her prince. The subordinate laughed and asked if she would be too cool to be a princess. Although the girl from childhood got into bad and unfair situations because of her kindness, she and Nick balanced everything from childhood, and they helped each other. Wendy is sure that this couple is a perfect match. The woman was heading towards the exit when suddenly Rossi called her. The girl thanked for everything with a sincere smile. But Wendy was sure that the subordinate deserved more, because the support of the girl is much more expensive than the money. The witch filled a warm bath and climbed into it, thoughts of Aiden flooding her head again. She was surprised by how easily the boy gave the core of his life to her. After all, when she dies, Aiden will die after her. All this really spoiled the mood of the woman. She began to calculate the future losses and the gains they would receive. The main problem is Aiden himself. The girl did not know what to do with this egoist. She decided that the most effective punishment would be to completely ignore the boy for the rest of her life. One of the pluses was that she has a dragon's heart. Therefore, a good option would be to rise to the level of an arch-sorcerer and write one page of history. Very confused and disordered feelings of the boy began to reach the girl. The witch did not understand why the boy despaired, because she was the one who was deceived. The woman shouted Aiden's name. She was very angry with him. After that, she dipped her head in the water and raised it very sharply because she felt an incomprehensible touch. It was Gaia. She was summoned by Shakna. He asked the girl if she had calmed down, because she came with such a face as if she was about to cry. Although the lady wanted to deny everything, the teacher has known her for too long, and she will not be able to deceive him. The girl's condition was related to the fact that she hoped to follow the teacher all her life, but in one moment she received a power much greater than his. She felt as if she had lost her way in life. Shakna added that that kid knows how to bring his student to tears. Wendy did not understand what the teacher was talking about. He shared that Bios told him everything. The girl was shocked because her teacher knew about everything and did not say a single word. He replied that he only knew that Aiden was a dragon. Wendy got up. She added that the teacher talked about the fact that he has a mutual acquaintance with Rod Bios. Shakma replied that it was indeed so, and he met the girl just as he was going to meet him. The great sage said that perhaps the girl is bound to the great dragons by a fate that cannot be broken, even if you want it. Wendy shouted that she did not need such a fate. Shakma only said that if Aiden were here, he would definitely cry. The student shouted that she wanted to cry. A moment later, when the girl had calmed down a little, the sage asked if she had hit her fiancé. Wendy confidently answered that she hit the boy. The teacher praised her, because if she didn't do it, he would personally give the boy a good beating. That girl added that she not only hit the boy, but also finished it off with words. Shakma asked if she was going to forgive the boy, but Wendy shouted that she was not going to do this at all, because the young man did not even regret what he had done. The sage was surprised that the girl was upset that Aiden did not regret his actions. The student continued to scream and suddenly realized that she was a well-behaved student, so she took control of herself. She has no right to speak so rudely to her mentor. Suddenly, the sage asked permission from Wendy to become his participant in one small experiment. He promised not to use a knife, but to limit himself to a few simple tests. Wendy replied that she did not want to participate in the tests. She wanted the teacher to treat her problems at least a little more seriously because she has big problems. Shakma replied that he never jokes, he is literally always serious. Then the girl told that in one moment she became stronger than the sage, although she never wanted it. That is what eats her. The great sage thought the girl's statement was funny. She just got a little more magical energy and already considered herself stronger than him. He added that the lady will not even be able to match his little finger, and she herself has a long way to go, and it will be like this at least until he dies. Wendy jokingly said that the teacher might actually be a dragon slayer. But suddenly he directly told the girl, if she wants to die human, he will do it right before his death. Although the student promised herself never to cry in front of the teacher, she could barely hold back her tears. She replied that if possible, she would like Shakma to kill Aiden and not her. Shakma replied that he would do so, and the girl herself felt as if she was once again faced with the choice of which life to choose. She was tormented by all this. Although the girl has a vacation, the teacher put an incredible load on the girl. Lady ran and carried all the necessary things for experiments. She wondered how Shakma managed to create so many magic circles in such a short period of time. After all, Wendy could hardly make one ring only after sitting for 2 days. After realizing what she said to the teacher, she became incredibly ashamed. After all, her magical power has only risen a little. Aiden came to the girl. He wanted to say that he was wrong, but Wendy only replied that no matter what the boy said, she still wouldn't be able to understand him. Wendy didn't know what to do with the boy, and Aiden apologized and admitted that he was wrong. But the witch refused him, because probably she will never be able to forgive the way the boy deceived and restricted her. It would actually be nice if the girl actually hated Aiden, but she is just angry at him for not telling about his essence, and for the fact that he arbitrarily handed over the dragon's heart. The most important thing is that the guy does not regret his actions at all and does not apologize. But she heard the sincerity in the boy's words with her heart. She added that the boy will not be able to limit her in a similar way. She will live her life as Wendy Blanchett and die as her. Aiden replied that he knew it, but the witch shouted that the boy knew absolutely nothing. She added that if he had known her and understood that he would not be able to bind her with such a stupid method, then he would not have done such stupid things. The guy replied that he was wrong. Wendy asked why he says that and doesn't feel remorse. But the boy added that he cannot say that he regrets the act because it is a lie. but he still believes that he was wrong. The guy really didn't want to hurt the girl, and the boy never thought about the things the witch said, namely tyranny and coercion. But Wendy added that his lack of intent does not make his actions wrong. She ordered the boy to come up with some excuse that would make her feel sorry for him. Aiden said that he was worried. He wanted to be close and make the woman love him. And he gave his heart only because he wanted to increase the time to convince the girl of this. Meanwhile, Wendy felt all those heavy feelings in which the young man choked, and suddenly they calmed down. Aiden said again that he loves the girl. He burst into tears and said that he was wrong. The young man asked not to hate him, but the witch replied that she did not feel the same towards him. After all, if she hated him, she wouldn't even listen to him, and she wouldn't look him in the face. A dragon's heart is very stable. There is no choice, and they cannot change the fact that she is too beautiful. The lady touched the young man's face. The guy put his hand on his and added that he loves the woman. The witch replied that she knew about it, but she would not forgive him like a fool. Aiden had to promise that from now on he would only tell the truth and would not hide a single fact from her anymore. He had to swear and put his heart on the line. If he swears on his heart, then the moment he breaks his promise, the girl will say goodbye to life. You can't think of better shackles for a young man. Aiden vowed his whole life to tell only the truth. He added that the girl is really incredibly smart because she set a condition that the boy will never be able to break in his life. This oath was much more important than the previous one. It could easily be called a real wedding vow. The couple held hands and stood like that for some time, until the guy couldn't help himself and said that the girl turned him on very much. That girl did not think to stop doing it. The lady bit the boy's hand and ordered wedding rings to be made, after which the two fell to the floor and began to kiss. In the morning, the girl woke up in her bed. She could not move normally. The young man apologized because he tried too hard at night. He was very embarrassed, and Wendy just hugged him. Even after a lot of hugs, the boy couldn't get used to it, and like the first time, he felt a thrill from touching Wendy's body. After the hug, the witch felt that the boy's feelings were again occupied with vulgarity. She was surprised by this, but the young man said that he simply could not control himself. Wendy added that those who are bad at something spend whole days studying it. The woman told the young man that she promised to go to Rossi because she promised to help with the wedding preparations, because they did not have time to finish many things yesterday. Aiden ordered the boy to bring an energy drink, but the young man asked not to drink it, because it is harmful to health. It will be much better if the girl eats. The witch said that not everything is so bad, although sometimes it has negative effects. Suddenly, she offered the young man to try it. The guy thought that the woman was offering him to drink an energy drink and make love again, and Wendy replied that if they did it again, she would die. But suddenly the girl added that if you drink an energy drink, then guys can do worse in bed. Wendy added that if the guy was very, very weak, they could make love sooner. But the young man replied that the woman would kill him even before the effects began to take effect. The witch replied that endurance was not related to magical power, and she did not understand why the young man was so tough. The guy replied that all dragons have great endurance. Besides, he constantly trained. Wendy asked why the young man was engaged in physical training. The boy was simply afraid that the woman would not like him if he was weak. Although, as it turned out, she did not pay so much attention to it. Although the vacation has just begun, the woman has already experienced as many adventures as you can't gather in a year in the laboratory. If you think about it, the first family quarrel between the couple took place 2 days ago. She screamed at the boy as if she wanted to kill him, and now they lie together peacefully next to each other. Perhaps from the outside it seems funny. The girl was very tortured, so she lay down to take a nap, and when she wakes up, she will have to go to Rossi. After that, everything will still need to be reported to the teacher. Aiden hugged the girl and wished her good dreams. The couple fell asleep together. Wendy was sitting at Ross's house. Logan was checking the list to make sure everything was in place. The subordinate was very grateful to the witch, because only thanks to her, they were able to finish everything so quickly. The woman added that it was not her who did it, but her wallet, so there is nothing wrong with it. Nick and his bride even burst into tears because they were very afraid of wedding preparations and financial expenses. If you don't think about money, everything seems incredibly easy. This served as an even greater motivation for them to get promoted. Aiden asked if they could start their meal as he had made tea and baked a roast, although he didn't know if they would like it or not. Logan asked how lavish the newlyweds wanted to arrange the wedding. Wendy equated this holiday with a national holiday, although it was still much grander than the couple could have imagined. Wendy took the sheet with the list of the necessary and saw that everything she had written was crossed out. There are only 4 conditions left for the happiness of the bride. The old one is a veil left by Rossi's late mother. New are the wedding shoes that Miss Wendy bought. And borrowed, this is the bracelet of Rossi's friend. Blue will be a necklace prepared by Logan with a sapphire pendant. Aiden added that these are all just wonderful things. Logan offered to rest before the holiday if the preparations were complete. Wendy interrupted the boy. She was sure that there must be some other things to do, but even looking hard at the list, she could not find anything. Nick asked if it was really that hard for a woman to take being out of work. Rossi said that she had been thinking about all this for a long time, and added that the woman has a serious addiction to work. It seemed that the witch could not get used to the absence of work. They say that everyone who has tried it knows how to have fun, and judging by Wendy, all she did was work hard. But she could not do anything, because work is her hobby and happiness. Aiden asked if he could pour the woman some more tea, and she agreed. Rossi could not believe that after the woman told her about Aiden, now the boy was standing next to her. The girl wanted to ask about it, and Wendy ordered the boy to go with her because they had another meeting scheduled. Everyone was surprised that the witch and the boy were walking so quickly, they asked to stop, but they quickly left the house. Wendy breathed a sigh of relief as she walked away. They had almost been exposed. Aiden only asked if the woman would continue to hide it all. Although the girl did not intend to hide it forever, she does not want to tell everyone about it. After all, being open and telling everyone about yourself are different things. Suddenly, the girl stopped. The guy asked what happened. It turned out that Wendy had forgotten something. The lady came to the great Shakma. He was happy and said that the material for experiments came to him himself, so he called Wendy. The man asked to come in sooner. The sage noticed that Aiden was next to his student and called him a baby. The boy suddenly said that he was glad to meet Shakma. This surprised the old man. He was very interested to hear such a polite address from the dragon. He added that it is immediately clear who will live long mocking Wendy a little. The sage said that it is probably too early for him to become a dragon slayer. From the beginning, the lady did not understand what the man was talking about, but later she remembered his words. If it weren't for his appeal, Wendy would hardly have reconciled with Aiden so easily. The sage touched the girl's head and asked what she planned to spend her weekend on. But the witch replied that as soon as the teacher wanted it, she would immediately give up her vacation. But he didn't mean it. The girl really should have had a good rest. Wendy agreed with this and asked what she should do anyway. The sage was glad to hear this. He added that it was immediately obvious that she was his student. He liked that the girl understood everything so well. To begin with, he wanted to talk to the boy, so he kicked the girl out of the room. His intentions were absolutely serious. Aiden had hurt his student. Shakma had to say something to him personally, but the lady did not want to leave the room. The old man assured that he would not offend the boy. But Wendy replied that it wasn't about that, she was just worried about something. But Aiden assured the girl that everything was fine. The young man said that he would not lose, and the great sage assured that he would not eat the boy. But it didn't matter who won and who didn't, because there will be problems in any of the cases. After the girl left the room, the old man tapped the floor with a stick, setting up a soundproof barrier. Aiden said that there was no need to do that, and then there would be no point in kicking the girl out of the room, because in both cases, she would have heard about everything. The boy asked what the sorcerer wanted from him, and Shakma simply replied that nothing. He just wanted to see the boy's true face. If Wendy was in the room, she wouldn't be silent. The sage ordered not to stand still, but to approach him and sit down. And he took the tea in his hands. Aiden replied that he had nothing to talk about with the old man. Then the sage asked how the boy would do if he would return to Wendy in the corridor. But the young man was sure that the girl would not be happy about it. After a moment, the young man nevertheless settled in front of Shakma. The man noticed all the superiority of the black dragons in the young man's behavior. Although the man didn't really want to talk to the one who brought his student to tears, he told that Wendy was like a granddaughter to him, and Aiden asked why the old man wouldn't just keep his mouth shut. The man replied that he could barely restrain himself from tearing the boy to pieces because he loved the student very much. He added that the black dragon is powerless before him, because as soon as the boy reconciles something with the old man, Wendy will hate the young man forever. After all, he values his teacher very much. Although the old man does not want to interfere in the girl's life, he cannot close his eyes to what the young man is nursing. Wendy is the most talented of all Shakma's students. Aiden added that the girl will catch up with him as soon as possible. A verbal altercation took place between the men. The sage said that the young man hides his true feelings because he really loves the girl. The old man asked if he was right. The boy only replied that if he had not loved the girl, then Shakma would have been dead a long time ago. But the man did not even doubt it. The sage has several students, and Wendy is the best among them, yet he considers them all wonderful. He will never refuse the request of his beloved student. Anger appeared on Aiden's face. He felt that the girl was thinking about the prince. He could not allow the witch to meet him again. Aiden must immediately stop this. He must become the only one who supports Wendy. The boy wondered if Wendy was really his girlfriend, because she felt nothing but sympathy and pity for the boy. She couldn't refuse him the day he asked for love. Right now, the girl's feelings are not serious. This is not true love. The boy understood that now was not the time. And when he opens the door, he will break all the barriers and Wendy will start to hate him. The guy was under a lot of pressure. He couldn't afford to make a mistake because he didn't want to lose her. Although he probably won't become Wendy's lover, she can't be allowed to hate him. Shakma sees that the young man is truly in love, and such blind love, no matter how good the feeling, can lead to terrible consequences. In addition, the guy is incredibly stubborn, so everything can be even more difficult. The sage wondered if the boy would win the heart of his student. Wendy walked along the corridor. As soon as she was kicked out of the room, she felt how a barrier was put up. She did not understand what was so important Shakma and the young man were talking about. Moreover, it was a secret from her. The girl knew that the sage would do whatever he wanted, whether she was around or not, but she is sure that there is something more to the matter. She planned to ask Aiden about it later. Since the girl was passing by the laboratory, she could not just pass it by. That's why I entered her as before. When there is no one in the room, it is difficult to call it a laboratory. Wendy liked the silence. She filled her with peace, but all calm disappeared as soon as she saw who was sitting behind the chair in her laboratory. Just the thought of him took the girl's breath away. It was Cain, the man with whom the girl fell so deeply in love, but never received an answer to her love. The guy noticed that recently they began to see each other less. The witch became so uncomfortable that she wanted the man to leave the laboratory. Wendy understood that Shakma knew that she was avoiding Cain, but she didn't want him to find out until the end. Still, she was more worried about the moment when she met Cain. She held her breath so Aiden's heart wouldn't know about her meeting. Amazingly, during a meeting with a guy with whom she is madly in love, her thoughts are only about Aiden. Meanwhile, Cain said that he got the impression that the girl did not want to cross paths with him. He asked her why it upsets him so much. The girl was embarrassed. She replied that they did not cross paths because she thought that the young man was busy. The prince really had a lot to do, but 3 months have passed since the girl ignored his letters. Wendy sat down at the table and replied that she was also very busy. So much so that she didn't even have time to meet her friend. The guy added that he knows about the girl's vacation, and he is surprised that the girl did not come to see him. The young man even asked the teacher for a meeting. Wendy was afraid that she would disturb Cain, but he replied that it doesn't matter how busy he is, because he will always find time for his best friend Wendy. He asked how the girl could not meet him immediately after the wedding, and the girl remained silent. Wendy looked at Cain. She used to like these lips, and now something has changed. Cain created the illusion that Wendy was special to him, but in reality, she is only the best friend for a boy. Their friendship was so strong that the girl came up with different ideas. She loved Cain very much, she really did. In May of the 200th year, according to the Imperial calendar, Shakma introduced the girl to Cain. He said that from today, they will study together. The teacher asked the young man to say hello as well, but he just kept silent in a sullen manner. The boy was born immediately titled, Aiden is the son of the emperor. His blonde hair resembled a crown, and bottomless blue eyes, clear as the sea. The boy had everything that Wendy did not have. People consider him perfect only because of this. On the same day, they quarreled terribly and wanted to kill each other. But the next day, they had to study and do the tasks together. The emperor himself entrusted Shakma with the training of Cain, because the great sage declared that he would not accept anyone else as a student. Everyone who walked outside gossiped about the girl. After all, they believed that Shakma simply accepted another orphan without magical abilities. Hearing this conversation, Wendy poured water on the people and decided to show them why she is Shakma's student. After taking off her mantle, the girl stretched out her hands, and the couple who a couple of minutes ago were talking about how the girl was powerless were simply shocked, because Wendy Blanchett is a high magician. The pair ran away while Cain spied on the girl. The boy understood why Wendy became a student of the great Shakma. After that, the lady sat on the roof of the room. Later, Cain himself joined her. He asked what the girl was doing in this place. But the student did not want to make contact. The young man sat down next to her and called her rude. Wendy wondered what the boy had said and ordered her not to sit next to her. The guy only replied that the girl is like that only because she has no friends. This made her so angry that she wanted to fight him, and the young man added that the lady behaves like a prickly hedgehog. But Wendy replied that in fact, it was Cain who started everything first. The girl was sad, because no matter how cute she is, no one sees anything good in her. Everyone around only pretends to be good, and behind her back they tell rumors about her. Wendy simply has no choice but to be a prickly hedgehog. And when he hears bad things being said about her personally, he says whatever he wants. Cain asked if the girl really thought that because she was only pretending to use magic. Wendy replied that it was logical, because otherwise someone could die. The guy smiled and added that the young lady is much kinder than it seems from the beginning. He took her hand and asked to walk together. Wendy did not understand where they were going. The boy replied that she only needed to beat those who insulted her. In this case, no one will die. Besides, she will no longer be touched after this. It was incredibly easy for the girl to open up to Cain. He beat people who spread rumors about her. They usually made a mess in the room and then ran away. From time to time, the two rascals came up with new and more interesting methods of annoying someone. Each time the methods were meaner and meaner. It is surprising, because from two children who are not very friendly against each other, they have become a problematic duet. Wendy always remembers those times with a smile on her face. Suddenly, she wondered why Cain had started flirting with her, since he was only teasing the girl at first. Cain interrupted Wendy's thoughts by calling out to her. She listened to everything he told her. The witch said that she just remembered their old times, because it had been a long time since he came to the wizard's tower. The young man replied that it was all a long time ago, and the only thing he regrets is that he will no longer be able to set Lord James Rendell's beard on fire. Wendy has heard of him. He heads the team to develop magical weapons. Cain knows this, the very fact that makes him even more frustrated. As it turned out, James still believes that he quickly advanced in the service only because he was the master's favorite. Cain suggested spending more time together because he often saw her at parties. The girl did not answer clearly. Wendy couldn't remember the last time she spoke so well to a boy. Although the girl wanted to hide her feelings. Although Cain is a good friend, she still felt awkward because she did not know when hidden words and suggestions would pour out of her heart. Therefore, she followed every word. Despite the fact that Cain is right in front of her, the girl cannot concentrate on his words. Now she is very embarrassed to make eye contact with a boy. Suddenly, Cain said that he was very comfortable with Wendy. The girl did not fully hear this and asked what exactly the young man said. But the guy replied that it is not so important. After that, the man said that it turned out well that he got married. Wendy thought he was showing off, but Cain just assumed. The guy spoke very strangely. His words were not fully understood by the girl. Cain asked Wendy not to take his words to heart and started picking on her like a big brother. In parting, the young man said that he will protect this place and will not give it to anyone. After that, he turned around and left. Wendy called the boy after her. Although she was late, she still congratulated Cain on his wedding. It's strange that the words she couldn't say to him flew out of her mouth so easily now. The young man stopped in the doorway, remained silent for a while, and then thanked him. He asked me to definitely visit him next time. Wendy agreed. In the end, Cain ordered not to ignore his letters and said that they would meet again later. Aiden was not far away. The girl asked if he was around because they had not seen each other for a long time, but the guy just hugged her without saying a word. Wendy asked if her boyfriend was jealous of Cain, but Aiden only asked her not to meet the prince again because he is afraid that the boy will take her away from him. The witch wondered why the young man had not told her this before, but Cain was afraid to say it because he thought that the girl would start to hate him. Wendy wiped the tears from the boy's face. She said that she loved him and could not express it now. The best and most appropriate conclusion to this statement is that she likes the young man. Without a doubt, the witch's feelings for Cain had changed. Aiden told Wendy that he likes her a lot, after which he hugged the girl. For the sorceress, changes in relation to the prince were not surprising, because she always had someone who hugged her. Meanwhile, Cain was sitting in Shakma. He said that he noticed how the girl's reaction to him had changed. the prince had never loved anyone as much as Wendy. The young man perfectly understood all the consequences and obligations of his decisions. Since childhood, he had not forgotten a single thing, and every time he had several options to choose from. Among all these options, there were none that he loved so much. If he had not retreated and had not abandoned and pretended not to know her, then probably everything would have been much different. But the great Shakma replied that it was not necessary to do this. Cain agreed with the sage and still wanted Wendy to be happy. He cannot drag the girl into the terrible world of power just because of his greed. Shakma called the boy indifferent to everything, but Cain did not regret his decision. The prince said that he saw how Aiden Winter was jealous of her. Meanwhile, Wendy was at Rossi's house. The bride was just trying on a dress, and Wendy herself thought that she was marrying her own daughter. The girl asked if she looks good. The sorceress answered that the bride looks so good that she will outshine Nick at the party. Rossi jokingly asked if she should marry the boy in such a case. Wendy seriously replied that it should not be done. But the bride did not appreciate the answer. The witch asked why the girl does not worry before the wedding. Rossi said that the wedding is just a custom after all. She has been living with her boyfriend for so long that she has nothing to worry about, although it was clear that the bride was a little nervous. Wendy said that this is normal because the girl is preparing to start a family. At that moment, Aiden, Nick, and Logan arrived, the last two not feeling very well. Wendy asked what had happened to the boys and added that they must also be very nervous. Nick was more nervous than his fiancée, and Logan was so sick that he thought he was going to die. The groom approached his bride and said that she was perfect. Wendy asked Logan if he was disappointed, and the young man added that he hated Nick because he was marrying his sister. This greatly surprised the couple, because they had been dating for a long time. But the guy replied that he didn't like that either, but he hated marriage more than anything. Aiden looked at the witch. They agreed without a word. Later, the girl said that she would leave to get the stabilizer and called Aiden with her. Aiden said that something was happening outside. Wendy saw a young man with green hair. He was an old acquaintance of hers. It was Hannah. She greeted the couple and asked how Aiden was doing, and joked that she doubted the boy would be any use. Wendy came to the boy's defense and replied that he was very helpful. The woman with green hair replied that they should use what they borrowed in full and return it when the time comes. Wendy gave Nick some kind of bottle of liquid and asked him to drink it. The guy asked what it was and later drank it. It was rum. When Nick heard it, he wanted to spit it out and it was too late. Wendy asked not to worry because she knows how much the guy can drink. And this dose is ideal because it will help him relax. Suddenly, Logan and Rossi also asked for rum because they were stressed. The sorceress replied that there is no need to worry because there are only 10 guests. Logan did not let the witch go, even though she asked him to do so. After a moment, the bride's brother saw Aiden, who asked in an imperative form to let Wendy go. The woman told the newlyweds to prepare for the exit. Nick really stopped worrying, and his feelings manifested in a different way. Wendy sincerely congratulated the couple on their wedding, and the lovers thanked her in one voice. Aiden and Logan opened the door for the newlyweds to enter the hall. To the woman, they reminded Cain and his wife. The witch hoped that the couple would be happy. Wendy said goodbye to Logan and left, followed by Aiden. The woman said that among all the guests, she knew only Hannah. That's why she left the place. The girl asked the question, how long Aiden is going to suffer? But the young man didn't answer anything. Wendy added that when they looked at each other, the man always laughed. The guy apologized and added that he noticed how she didn't like it. Aiden thinks that Wendy could very easily hate him, although this is partially the girl's fault, because she did not clarify this at first. But Aiden is also guilty of this. The guy greatly complicated very simple things, namely trust and confidence in a partner, although he himself did not know it. Wendy said that she would write a formal request to transfer Aiden to the Mana Research Department. She said that she was not going to do as Hannah said. She grabbed the young man by the tie and pulled him to her and said that Aiden is only hers, and she is also only him. Therefore, the guy may no longer be jealous of her. Aiden said that he is very jealous and that it can upset her. The woman added that everything is fine because she is a very good witch. And the guy always pissed her off a little. After meeting Aiden, there wasn't a single moment when he wasn't worried. She was both nervous and not at the same time. Wendy hugged the boy. From the very beginning, he managed to pulverize her brain. The girl remembered Hannah's words. She didn't understand what it was like to return it after using it well. Wendy will not give Cain to anyone again. The witch was lying on the table from weakness. She was very tortured because she worked a lot on magical experiments. Aiden came to her and said that it was time for a snack. Although the girl wanted to skip it, the young man insisted on his own. You can't take breaks from eating. He never did that either. The guy remarked that soon the weather will be better. But if this is indeed the case, more work will appear in the laboratory. Sorcerer's Tower installs mana wands to collect heat waves and avoid temperature drops throughout the capital. When it's too hot or too cool, mages use their mana. This is quite a difficult task, and the laboratory run by Wendy is almost dead, so they need Aiden to support them. He just needs to do his best. The management department transferred Aiden to the mana research business very easily because there was a severe shortage of workers there. It was very easy until Wendy remembered that she needed permission from Evelyn, the director of Mana Stone Research, and she hadn't returned yet. If the director does not show up in time, things will be much worse for the witches. Aiden was standing next to Wendy. He kissed her hand, after which the girl pulled the young man to her. Their kisses were interrupted by Logan. He looked much better, but she wondered why the boy did not spend his vacation elsewhere. She chased Aiden into her office. The boy lost his temper because he felt abandoned. Logan replied that he had rested enough and did not want to be on vacation anymore because he did not even have any interests. No matter how strange it sounded, magic interests him the most and brings him pleasure. He asked Wendy if she had any hobbies, and the question was inappropriate because magic was her life, hobby, and specialty. Logan understood everything and added that he came to the laboratory for his own research. Logan learned from the administrator that it was not her first day at work. He asked why the woman did not tell him anything, but Wendy replied that she did not want to disturb those who are on vacation, even if it concerns her personal secretary. The young man felt as if he had just been deprived of his position. The witch assured the boy that he did not need to worry, and said that she had applied for the transfer of Aiden Winter to their group. The only obstacle is permission from the head of the Mana Explorers. The problem was that the head of the Mana Researchers is very old, and she has hated Wendy for a long time. It was a big obstacle, and Logan promised that he would ask his friend where Miss Evelyn was now. Meanwhile, Wendy had to prepare a gift that Mrs. Evelyn would like. The witch tried not to cross paths with power and force because she was simply tired of it and loved her work. But the Tower of Sorcerers cannot be separated from power and influence. First, it is an official institution of the Morinata Empire. Although Logan is helping her now, she will not be able to receive this help forever. The secretary was going through the letters and suddenly came across an invitation from the Imperial court. The woman sent Logan to the castle, even though he didn't want it. The secretary's study was devoted to mass permanent movement using the magic circle. Thanks to this, it was possible to send troops to a long distance, or simply move 100 people in a short period of time. That is, it had both commercial and military value. The only drawback was that the magic circle had to exist on both sides, and even such sacrifices were worth it. After rereading the letter, they saw that Wendy's name was also mentioned in it. She was invited personally. Logan was happy because he didn't want to go to the castle alone, and now he would have a witch for company. Suddenly, Aiden began to think about this letter with a smile. In fact, he was also participating in this experiment and would soon be transferred to the Mana Research Department. Therefore, he has every reason to go to the castle. Wendy looked around the area. She had to find exactly where Miss Evelyn's house was. Suddenly, Aiden came up from behind and hugged the girl, all of the young lady's hair flying straight into his face. She began to get angry and ordered the boy to let her go and go away, but the young man was not going to do it. Wendy asked what Aiden would do if they were seen together. He replied that he would let the girl go as soon as possible, but he asked if she would take him with her to the castle. She liked his stubbornness. The woman replied that she had already said that the young man could go to the castle with her. Suddenly, he asked if he should move up the ranks. The woman did not understand why he did this. After all, the boy lacks nothing, neither in skills nor in wealth, but she sees his interest in power. Aiden hugged the girl even tighter and replied that it was true, and added that it is better to be useful to others. But Wendy said that people who have a lot of power have even more responsibilities, and in the end, there will not be enough time at all, and the witch would like to see a person near her who can be by her side all the time. Aiden hugged the girl even tighter and added that in this case, he would stay in his current position and be the one his beloved needed. Having reached the house of Miss Evelyn, the girl sat with her at the table. It was clear that the witch was uncomfortable. The old woman was surprised that Wendy came to her personally. It must have been something very important. Wendy wanted to get closer and tone down the conversation, but Evelyn didn't like that. On the contrary, it worsened the situation. but the head of the department roughly understood what the girl wanted from her. The woman began to think about whether to give the boy to Wendy's department. Meanwhile, the witch in her head scrolled through many options, how it would be easier to transfer the boy to her department. If the old woman refuses, it will be necessary to wait for the moment when Aiden himself writes an application for transfer. Suddenly, Evelyn replied that she would transfer the boy with ease. After all, during the whole time, he did nothing in their department, although he said that he would help the department. The old woman decided to touch on another topic. She wanted to tell why she doesn't like Wendy. The witch was really interested to hear that. Evelyn said that some fools say that she is just jealous of a small and talented girl. This is true, but she hates our heroine for another reason. The old woman was very nervous that Wendy, having a huge talent and a large number of influential people around her, and being the only student of the greatest sorcerer, does not head the sorcerer's tower. She added that the lady's responsibility is huge, and she is busy chasing the shadow of her own teacher. Evelyn dislikes her for this alone. With so much talent and a pleasant environment, Wendy is just as lazy, that impudent witch who does not think of doing anything on her own. With a smile on her face, the old woman added that she noticed how the girl began to step out of the shadow of her own teacher. The witch lay in Aiden's arms in her residence. Evelyn's words did not let her sleep. She wondered if the old woman really noticed something that even she did not notice in herself. Wendy decided to take control of herself. She understood that without leaving the path of her own teacher, she would not be able to reach her own goal. She must keep her promise. Aiden woke up and asked the girl why she was awake, but the witch interrupted him and asked why the boy woke up and whether he sometimes had a nightmare. But the young man replied that there was only Miss Wendy in his dreams. She wondered if they kissed in his dreams, she continued, and asked if he hugged her at the end. After that, the woman said that she would hug the boy, and he should sleep a little more. Surprisingly, the boy almost immediately fell asleep in the girl's arms. For her, the words he said were very important. She promised him that she would stay with him wherever the young man went. He became one of her strong supports, which she missed so much. 3 days later, Logan, Wendy, and Aiden met again at the door to the lab. Aiden was the first to let go of the girl's hand. It seemed strange to her because it had never happened before. It was clear that the young man was worried about the fact that she had received an invitation from the castle. There was no way he could hide it. Even when he was silent, wrinkles appeared on his forehead. But when their eyes met, he only smiled, and Wendy could not say anything. Logan felt sick again. It seemed to him that he was about to throw up. Aiden asked if he needed a nausea potion. The young man wondered why his employee needed a potion for nausea. He asked if it would be just as bad for him in the castle. But Wendy said that she did not want to hear it, because it was impossible to allow her senior employee to vomit in the middle of the crowd. After that, they moved straight to the castle. There, Logan talked about his invention and its advantages. It was indeed a breakthrough. The prince liked this idea, although it would be quite expensive, but in the end it would give many advantages. But James Rendell, the head of the Magic Weapon Development Department, thought that the costs for this were too high. He added that concluding an agreement with other countries will be an additional problem because it is impossible to install magic circles on their territory without permission. James didn't like it at all. He thought that transferring 100 people was too weak because maintaining the magic circle would cost a lot of money. Wendy got angry. Most of those sitting at the table did not even understand anything about it and did not guess what advantages this technology would provide them. She also didn't like James sitting in her teacher's place. The prince listened to all the pros and cons and expressed his own opinion. He believed that even though it would be difficult at the moment, even the possibility of teleporting so many people was a great achievement in itself. Kane added that this was enough to give Logan a medal of the 4th degree. The guy saw the negative mood of James, after which he added that he would not have coped with it alone, and that Wendy Blanchett helped him, although the girl asked him not to mention her at work. The prince turned to the girl. He said that James Rendell correctly noted that it is necessary to obtain the consent of different countries, especially the Principality of Rahamal. The girl had a bad feeling, and the prince said that they cannot announce the results of the research, so Logan needs to return to the tower and conduct additional research. Wendy met Kane's eyes. It was clear that he had planned to send the girl to the Principality of Rahamal from the very beginning. Although the girl was on vacation, the prince gave an order that could not be disobeyed. She was to go to the Principality of Rahamal, conclude a treaty with them, and report the results of the research. Wendy still set her own conditions. She said that she would be accompanied by Aiden Winter, who was also an employee of the Mana Research Department. This surprised the prince, because he knew the boy as an employee of the Mana Stone Research Department. But this time, it officially belongs to the Mana Research Center. Cain looked at the joined hands of Wendy and Aiden. The girl thought that the prince would smile, but it seems that only anger appeared on his face. As they walked out together, Logan asked if the girl planned to meet with Cain, because every time things were done at the Imperial Castle, they met in person. Wendy replied that there is a reason for this. If the girl had met Cain in person, she would have become known as the murderer of the prince. Cain had never sent someone on a business trip before, and the girl found it strange. Perhaps this was the only way for Cain to express what he thought about the girl, but Wendy was surprised by his emotions. He looked very angry. Wendy was very angry. Logan tried to calm her down, and his attempts were not successful. After opening the map, they saw how far the Principality of Rahamal is actually located. The usual way, the journey there will take about 3 months. The girl wanted the whole world to know about this technology. Wendy had to pass on the task information to higher management because it is a separate mission. Logan added that the girl should not forget to add that he is on vacation, so the payment should be higher. Besides, there will be no funding in the second half of the year. Wendy was happy because she raised her subordinate. The boy asked the witch to be careful and not to starve, and also try not to become homeless. Although now he is not so worried because Aiden will be with her, and the woman will at least eat on time. Wendy was already tired of her subordinate's lectures. She agreed with everything if only he would let go of her. Aiden asked the girl about the incident that happened at work. She did not really want to talk about it. Aiden did not understand how this could even happen. But in a woman's profession, this cannot be avoided. After all, she is a sorceress, and sometimes this happens. Wendy apologized to the boy for using him and thanked him for agreeing to stay. Aiden replied that she had nothing to apologize for. Looking at the boy, Wendy was lost in thought. The guy from the very first meeting was very noisy, and he asked not to meet Cain anymore, but she could not avoid the meeting either. The girl dared to tell something about Cain, but Aiden already understood everything long ago. He only had to look at the girl. He asked if she did not think that people might suspect it. Wendy was surprised by the question and answered that she did not think so. Aiden said that he also thought about it. He added that after everything that happened, it is quite normal to worry about it. He added that the people around the witch are stalkers, and he is only the most persistent. Wendy looked at everything from the other side. She could not believe that many people around guessed her feelings. Wendy agreed with Aiden. It was stupid to think that she would be able to hide those feelings that rumbled so strongly in her. And her subordinates and the teacher simply did not say anything to show their own guesses. She could not even think that her immaturity could be revealed in this way. Wendy, with tears in her eyes, said that now everything is fine, and Cain is just her friend. Aiden thanked the girl for telling him about it first, and she doesn't need to apologize for it. The guy added that he really likes the emotion on her face. He asked if she liked Cain's face. The young man was ready to sacrifice a lot because he liked Wendy incredibly, but he understood that she also had her preferences. And Cain is her old friend. He will always be on her side. Aiden understood this and still found it difficult to overcome his jealousy. But finally, he dared to talk to the witch about it. Wendy was very fond of her unbearably cute dragon. The girl hugged him and kissed him. There was a lot of mess in Wendy's house. Aiden stood with his back to the girl and offered her to take a warm coat. But the witch didn't understand why it couldn't just be put in the closet. The guy replied that it's not possible because you need to collect everything you need. The young man put everything into an artifact bag with space expansion. Wendy thought she was going to hit Aiden out of anger. The witch replied that they didn't have time for all this and they needed to leave immediately. But the boy tried to pack everything, adding that he didn't have time to pack everything he needed. Wendy ordered Aiden to shut up and added that the boy can buy himself absolutely anything he wants right on the road. The young man put up with this and agreed. The witch showed her partner the key. It didn't look like the others. This key has a perfect protective barrier because there is a layered magic. This key is a very expensive artifact. Aiden wondered why Wendy was using it, and the two answered that her house contained many more rare artifacts than ordinary ones, so she had to pay special attention to security. She entrusted the key to the young man because she believed that it would be right. She added that she will probably buy a bigger house soon. But Aiden liked it too, because it has a lot of memories. Wendy found this strange because she doesn't remember anything other than exploiting Aiden. The young man added that he should move in with the witch because his house has a rather small warehouse. The girl remembered for Rod, their recent quarrel had damaged a large part of Bios's property. It was necessary to apologize kindly for it. Since this business trip she cannot teleport, she must check in at a checkpoint in the capital. Aiden asked if the girl was going to have a drink here. But Wendy did not intend to do this. She does not think about alcohol, and after the appearance of the young man, she completely forgot about the bad habit. This night, the girl wants to be sober. After that, they entered the tavern. The bartender happily greeted her and asked what kind of young man was next to her. She wondered who this man was, and whether it was sometimes about her beloved handsome man. The old man was stunned. He asked where the witch who did not need men had gone. Wendy said that it was hard to resist such beauty. The bartender said that it is worth drinking in honor of this, so first of all, they will drink for all those men who were sent away by the witch. Wendy appreciated the idea and replied that they did not have enough time. The man behind the counter asked where she was going. She replied that her way was very far, all the way to the principalities of Laham. The bartender lowered himself under the counter. He confirmed that the girl's journey was quite far. He told that he had an errand for her. The witch took all the errands without even looking at what was there. The husband was surprised by this, and Wendy replied that she trusted the bartender's choice. Wendy added that she still needed 2 horses. The bartender asked why the witch kept buying horses, but she replied that she usually does not ride them. The man asked to wait a little. Aiden was surprised that in this place you can get a commission and even buy horses. But there was nothing strange in this, because this is the base of the Information Guild. Since this is a business trip, it must be noted at each point. That's why they can't teleport. And there is no point in keeping horses anyway, because the girl does not go on business trips that often. And every time she has a business trip, she takes on tasks and buys horses. Aiden was surprised by this. He did not understand why she was running errands, because she already has so much. That woman said that she does not receive money for it. The bartender just returned and intervened in the conversation. He added that instead of money, he gives artifacts, magic stones, or sorcery books. Aiden immediately guessed that errands are dangerous, but the bartender assured that it was impossible. Later, the bartender's subordinate came. He said that the horses were already prepared. Wendy thanked her for everything, and they decided to leave. The bartender finally wished her a happy journey, and added that there are at least 5 people who will faint after hearing about her lover. 7 robbers gathered around the 2 carriages, ordered them out of the way, and pointed their swords at Aiden. He easily broke the sword and asked the robber if he wanted to kill him. The couple reached the checkpoint in the capital Quadman, where they were marked for arrival. Wendy immediately understood that the guy who was marking and didn't know whether to report it to senior management was new. The witch wanted to go to the place that Rossi advised her. Besides, it was already too late to go for groceries. Aiden agreed, and still confirmed that dinner was still his. Wendy asked the boy not to overdo it because she didn't care, but the young man added that there should be a diet. Because judging by what he knows, human health depends on proper nutrition. He added that they should get rid of bad eating habits of women, but Wendy was not satisfied with this because she is 28 years old and is no longer a child at all. But Aiden did not treat her like a child. The angry girl asked how the boy behaved with her then. He replied with a smile on his face that if he had treated her like a child, they wouldn't be doing anything like that at night. Later, he added that they do this not only at night, but also during the day. The guy started flirting with the girl. He took her hand, and Wendy didn't understand it. The young man replied that he just wanted her to feel his heartbeat, although she can do it without it. He asked in the manner of an adult if they were going to eat, but Wendy didn't like it very much. She could go herself. When they reached their destination, they saw a lot of people. Wendy was glad they left the horses early. The queue was so long that they would hardly be able to get into the cafe. Aiden suggested going to another facility where it was quiet and comfortable. Suddenly, Wendy is seen by her old friend Haley Ginger, but the witch ignores her. It was this person she wanted to avoid meeting, but the newcomer informed Haley of the lady's arrival anyway. The heroine could not get out of this situation, so she had to talk to Haley. Aiden asked who she was, and Wendy said that she was the head of the Quadman Information Guild. Haley asked if it was the same magical research department rookie in 7 years. Wendy hurriedly answered that it was this guy and tried to leave the woman as quickly as possible. But Ginger asked if Wendy would regret what she had done. If she left right now, Haley would use her old blackmail, which was to go and tell Prince Wills and Herman about it. The girl added that her motto is that in war, all means are good, But Aiden interrupted her. He asked her if she heard correctly, because she said that if they go with her, they can eat. Haley said that it was indeed so, because they have a small restaurant in the guild. They always have a place for special customers. Aiden agreed with that. They couldn't delay Wendy's lunchtime any longer. Haley said that she knew about the incredible beauty of Aiden, but she could not think that he was so handsome. The young man was looking at his friend Wendy, and the girl ordered him not to do so that she would not tease him. But Haley replied that she was simply fascinated by the young man, without any ulterior motive. She became interested in what Wendy was doing in this place, and suddenly remembered that she was on a business trip, and could not just use teleportation. Haley said that the guild wants the girl to protect someone, but she promised that she would no longer bother with unnecessary tasks, but they would still need housing, which is very convenient for them. Wendy was about to give up, but the girl said that they had to protect Prince Willis. Although the girl did not want it, she still took the assignment. Haley added that she would not reveal her identity and the identity of the manager. Having heard and received everything necessary, Wendy called the young man with her and went away. In parting, the girl added that without effort, you can't catch fish from the pond. She was very sorry that the guild used her like that. Wendy replied that the girl may not use her, but that is not the case now. Our heroine is often a useful tool, and not just for Haley. Many people use it to achieve their own goals. Her childhood friend is the Crown Prince. She is the youngest ruler of the tower. These are the conditions to be a disciple of a great sage. But now she has people to take care of. Wendy smacked Haley over the head with a mandate and said she would catch a fish out of the pond even if it was incredibly difficult. Despite the fact that Haley is evil and selfish, she probably even thinks about Wendy and wishes her well. But she quickly interrupted these thoughts. Most likely she's just stupid and naive. The girl could not even understand how exactly she ended up in such a place. She's had so many weird things happen in her life, with Aiden tricking her into marrying him, Kane derailing her right after that, and now Haley using her as he pleases. The girl did not understand where her life was going. In the tower she was famous for her rudeness, but she could never think that the day would come when she would miss this fame. Aiden touched Wendy's head. He asked if she was bothered by headaches, and she said that she was just sitting there and didn't understand what was wrong with her. But now there is no point in complaining, because this is not the first time Haley has dragged her into such an adventure. The young man asked if he had to sit in the hood, because he was uncomfortable. Wendy replied that the boy should not take it off. Aiden got angry because he was uncomfortable. He did not see Wendy, and the girl replied that she was not interested in it, and that she would look at her when she was a little patient. Because you need to prevent trouble. He asked what kind of trouble could happen, but Wendy said that the young man has an incredible appearance and it stands out strongly, and aristocrats have their own perversions, so he needs to be more careful. She added that if the boy was not a dragon, he would have been kidnapped a long time ago. The girl is generally surprised that nothing has happened to him so far. Aiden replied that he didn't know how it happened, but he wasn't paying attention to anyone but Wendy. The young man was the only one who did not notice everything around him, but only looked at the girl. Aiden's popularity was like a virus. The girls literally fought over the pen that the guy left behind, and the guy refused absolutely everyone. Rumors about him were so strong that even Wendy, who devoted herself to work, could not avoid it. Suddenly, she wondered if there was another dragon among the newcomers. Aiden asked what the woman was thinking about. She answered that she was thinking about him. The young man's face showed genuine surprise. The guy asked how the lady could confess to this, and after a second, the young man gently took Wendy's face and asked permission to kiss her, but she strictly refused him, covering her mouth with her hand because someone could see them. Aiden thought that no one would see them in the carriage, and Wendy laughed at this and replied that he needed to wait another 6 months. But it was too long for the young man. She added that if everything is fine with the person who needs to be protected, then you will have to wait much less. Aiden asked if they would need to stop the attack of monsters and bandits, and the girl suddenly cried and did not answer. The young man realized that something had happened. The sun suddenly rose. In the middle of the desert, there were only carriages with guards. This means that someone is obviously waiting for them as fodder. Wendy jumped out of the carriage and summoned a thunderstorm, and the herd of orcs immediately began to scream. In a moment, the girl summoned spears from the ice, and with one blow, she killed all the attackers at once. Thanks to these actions, she not only saved the guards and the prince, but also relieved her stress that had accumulated due to Haley, Aiden, and Kane. Suddenly the prince appeared. It was he who needed to be protected. He said that the witch had really done well. But Wendy did not expect such stingy praise. But the man replied that it was still a compliment. Since all personalities were hidden, politeness can be omitted. Suddenly, Wendy saw a girl in Aiden's arms. This angered Wendy, and the person to be protected noted that a witch can kill even with her own gaze. Aiden instantly pushed away the girl who had just hugged him. After that, he asked if everything was okay with Wendy. She replied that everything is fine and shook the dust off the young man. They didn't know for sure if it was a customer or not. And the gray-haired young man said that he hadn't laughed like that in a long time. He looked no worse than Aiden. Wendy replied that the contract did not specify that they should be entertained, and for this they were charged extra. The man replied that it was not a problem. It was obvious that he was flirting. Aiden immediately covered Wendy's eyes so she wouldn't see it, but she turned to the boy and said it was okay, and she was just going to watch Aiden. The customer asked if it was cruel to him, and Aiden replied that it would be cruel if there was a person standing in front of them. The unknown gray-haired boy was called Simon. He was surprised that Aiden revealed all his cards so quickly. The young man thought that it needed more time. He introduced himself, but Wendy didn't want to do it. The man added that it is not necessary. Aiden said that he was seeing Simon for the first time, but he knew his companion. The man jokingly asked if Aiden had a close relationship with that girl, because they hugged as soon as they met. Wendy thought about it. Even though dragons are very generous to touch, Aiden really looked like someone who knew this girl very well. Suddenly, the young man said something amazing. He asked to stay away from Wendy for a while. This shocked her, because he never even looked away from her, and made her blush with just one of his smiles and looks. The guy promised to explain everything later and apologize. He added that it was time for him to go back because she was worried. This surprised Wendy, because Aiden had said that he did not care about others, and now he left her alone with a stranger, and also went to another girl. She thought Aiden was a crazy puppy. He swore he wouldn't lie to her again, which means he really isn't in a close relationship with that girl. But for Wendy, it was still a question why the young man did not return to her then. Simon approached the girl. He noticed that she bit her lip again and touched her. She pushed him away and told him not to come near her. Simon replied that he didn't like nervous women, and Wendy replied that she was wonderful. Wendy asked Simon what he was doing around her. He said that Aiden took his place, so he took it, although there is still the option of being on a horse. The witch asked if the nervous woman would bother him, but Simon replied that being on a horse is much worse than riding with a nervous woman because he is a refined man. The man added that he was also being generous because he had just spoken to her informally. She offered to keep silent on the way, but Simon decided to ask who Aiden is to her because he considered him just a tomboy with whom she signed a partnership contract. Wendy's face changed for good. The man said that most likely the boy used a little trick to hide it. He was very surprised, because for the first time he sees the witch who tamed the black dragon. This is an incredible rarity that he met only after 4,000 years of life. She asked why Simon behaves like that, because he is like him. But the man said that if they are partners, it does not mean that they should be united in each other. The man said that his partner is riding in the carriage with Aiden, and they can fall in love as much as they want. Wendy gathered her thoughts and understood that her lover truly loves her, but will not fall in love with someone else. She asked Simon why he was telling her this. He said that although he does not like nervous people, when he sees jealousy on their faces, he can hardly control himself. He stood over the girl and added that she was hot. Wendy quickly threw Simon out of the carriage. Still, some of his words made her think. She thought that Aiden would go to that girl and then immediately come back. Besides, all the time her lover was watching her diet. The next day, Simon looked into Wendy's carriage, although she had high hopes of seeing Aiden. The man said that it was time for them to eat. He noted that the girl was upset because she saw the wrong person she expected. But Wendy replied that she did not want to eat. Simon asked if that was true, since the last time she had eaten was last night. But she assured that she was not hungry. The man saw that she pretended as if nothing was happening. He noticed that she was more of a coward than he could have thought. Wendy shared that she is very passive in terms of emotions. Being more open, she can be easily injured. She does not want to be harmed and hurt. The witch added that she was not going to pretend that nothing had happened. At least she should know what was on Aiden's mind. The girl wanted to see her lover. Wendy firmly decided that she would go to the boy. Simon supported her in this and said that he would accompany her and took her hand. But the girl again threatened to hit him and ordered to get out of her way. She was determined. Aiden left with another girl and stayed with her all night. She was ready to beat the whole truth out of him. The heroine was sitting and eating breakfast. Simon asked if the girl could eat with a less serious look on her face, but under her pressure, he closed his mouth. Behind them sat Aiden and the girl who was clinging to him. She begged him to eat, but he didn't care. Wendy barely restrained herself from turning to the boy. Simon said that the girl sitting with Aiden is called Juliet, and he is her blood relative. The man added that the lady was about the same age as the black-haired man. Wendy realized that most likely the girl and her lover grew up together in Rhoda's castle, and she was like a sister to him. Simon could feel the witch's distress. He mentally asked her to calm down because her ever-unstable magic had no effect on Aiden. The witch replied that she understood this, and the old dragon praised the girl for having telepathy. But Wendy replied that she knew it perfectly well, and that he should not look at her like that. The girl asked what Simon was going to do with the 3 elves they were carrying. But the man asked if it was not specified in their contract not to ask about such things. Wendy replied that she needed to know everything at the moment. She asked why Simon had asked her to calm down, and if it was because the sensitive elf was scared. The man replied that it was not important. The girl was terribly annoyed by this, and she left the table, saying that she had lost her appetite for food. But Simon said that it wouldn't work like that, and took Wendy's hand. Although the girl ordered not to hold her, the man was in no hurry to fulfill her order. The witch felt all the strength of the boy. In an instant, their eyes crossed, and Simon pulled Wendy close, hugging her and telling her that her efforts should not be in vain. The 3 elves looked in the direction of Juliet and Aiden. They could not be moved by her beauty. The girl offered the black-haired man to go for a walk before they continued on their journey. But Yuak did not listen to her. He was immersed in his own thoughts. Juliet turned to the boy again. She touched his face and asked if he could hear her at all. The young man asked to repeat what she said because he did not hear her. The girl again wanted to repeat what she said before, and Simon appeared in Aiden's field of vision, who was just hugging his beloved. Meanwhile, Wendy resisted this, but the man said that she needed rest, and that all his actions were only for good reasons. He told her to rest in the carriage, and in the evening they would arrive at a normal place for the night. Aiden looked straight into Simon's eyes, but did nothing before turning back to Juliet. Wendy was very affected by the fact that her lover did not pay any attention to her and kept at a distance. The guy's words that they should keep their distance were just running through her head. She saw how Aiden and Juliet were heading in an unknown direction and could not understand why she was so vulnerable in front of the people she opened up to. Simon said that the girl's head was still spinning, but she ordered to let her go. Breaking out of her husband's arms, she called her lover, but she never heard an answer. When they arrived at their lodging, Aiden was walking down a narrow corridor. Magical chains appeared around the boy, and Wendy grabbed his shirt. Only after that did the boy say her name. The girl looked into his eyes. She did not understand whether the boy had negative feelings towards her. Without thinking for a long time, they kissed. Wendy asked if her lover was tired of avoiding her. She began to believe that she was simply fed up with him. Aiden's face was full of surprise because he just couldn't get enough of Wendy. But she didn't think so, because the guy ignored her all the time for no apparent reason. The young man replied that he was going to explain everything a little later. Wendy confirmed this and added that it had been over a day, and she had not heard from Aiden. The girl was very indignant at the boy's behavior. The guy apologized. He thought he would be able to tell everything as soon as possible, but he was not given such an opportunity. Wendy thought that the young man wanted to leave her because of Juliet, to whom he spends a lot of time, but it was not so. The witch wanted to know the answer, and after a moment, Aiden, without answering, hugged the girl tightly. Suddenly, the couple heard an angry Juliet looking for a boyfriend. Simon asked her how much longer she was going to scream, and she told her to stay out of her business and shut up. This infuriated the man, and he replied that he was doing it only because her parents asked him to do it. Juliet believed that she was already an adult and was not going to listen to her husband. Simon replied that she could say such things to her parents, but not to him. Wendy was embarrassed to see her brother and sister quarreling in front of her, but she did not intervene. Still, she was fed up with it, so she cast a spell that blocked all sounds and signs of her and Aiden's presence, although she didn't know if she would be able to fool the dragon. Simon told Juliet that he had gone to great lengths to find Aiden, but by pure chance they were incredibly lucky, and they met him only as a result of circumstances. The girl believed that this was fate. The man added that his sister lived with Aiden for 1,000 years and could not win his heart, so he does not consider it fate. Simon said that he heard rumors that a girl was stalking Aiden and that he never looked in her direction and ignored her. Juliet threatened to fight, but the man replied that he was not going to compete with a child who had just started growing up. He added that he was the one who sent Aiden on an errand, so Juliet might not be looking for him. The girl was very angry. She asked if Aiden belonged to Simon, that he could give him such orders. But he replied that Aiden does not belong to his sister either. He told how the guy with whom his sister was so in love was completely indifferent to her and her courtship. He asked her to think about all this, and asked why she thought the guy was playing with her so quickly. These words confused Juliet, and she wanted to leave. Simon only added that she had a head on her shoulders, and it was time to start using her. The man asked Wendy if she wanted to hide from the dragon like this because her magic was powerless in that case. He said that he put up a barrier so that his sister would not find them. For this, he needed only one movement of his finger. Wendy suddenly changed her mind. She sincerely thanked the man for his help. Simon replied that he knew that the witch was grateful to him and called her a child. He specifically spoke to her telepathically so that Aiden would not hear anything. Although her husband made her nervous, thanks to him, the witch will be able to focus on her problems. She wanted to thank him somehow. She started passionately kissing Aiden. The young man couldn't help but hug the witch tightly, and they fell in love. Finally, Aiden told about the dragon girl. Juliet was raised in an endless love, as a result of which she grew up selfish and cruel. Once upon a time, there were only 2 children in Rhoda Castle. This is Aiden and Juliet. It is logical that he became her first love. The girl was older than the young man by about 500 years, and since then he did not remember her. Aiden could not have guessed that Juliet would stumble upon him so easily. But if she finds out that he is in love with Wendy, then she will not just leave it like that. The young man added that she had a lot of support from the other dragons, and he didn't want anyone to know about Wendy because he was sure they would be mad to hear about it. Aiden said that he will protect her in any case, and he will not be able to control the worsening of the situation. After all that, Wendy realized that her lover had made a very wise decision. If the dragons start competing against each other, then there will be so much damage that you can't count it. The witch became interested in how Juliet does not feel that she and her lover have a common heart. Aiden said that he used magic, and so far he manages to hide everything. Wendy took the boy's cheeks and stroked them. She added that the young man can't act like he doesn't know her. The guy apologized for his behavior. He said that at the moment when he wanted to talk to his beloved, Simon stuck to her like a bath sheet, and when they exchanged glances, Aiden realized that he no longer had the strength to endure all this. The young man asked if Simon had done something wrong to her, and Wendy replied that he was just talking nonsense. Hearing this, Aiden wanted to deal with him immediately, but the witch told him to calm down because she had already dealt with Simon herself. The next day, it was impossible to remove the smiles from Wendy's face, and Simon saw it. He already regretted that he had done so well. But the witch was surprised, because she herself wanted to thank him. Turning around, the girl smiled and asked if Simon was annoyed that she was trying to flatter him. But the man wanted a kiss as a sign of gratitude. Wendy immediately refused, because she already has a second half, and she needs to make sure that Simon's intentions are good. Suddenly he asked if the girl wanted to know about one rumor. Wendy began to listen carefully. Simon said that he had been quietly spying on her and Aiden, and after all that he wanted to get closer to the girl even more. But Wendy replied that she had a completely different taste in men and moved on. The angry man shouted that nothing is eternal and you have a better taste for men. She agreed with this and replied that even taking into account these facts, it does not change so quickly. When she suffered from previous love and emotional wounds, only one stupid man was with her, and he hugged her like a sculpture, and she had no choice but to fall in love. Simon replied that he doesn't care about her at all. He loves Aiden and not the witch. But Wendy did not react to this in any way. She was sure that she had said enough. But the man added that all this happened to him in a different way and had the opposite effect. He grabbed the witch by the hand and began to tell he was confident in his flawless appearance. His words were interrupted by Wendy herself, who called him a fool and ordered him to get out of the way. The girl did not understand how it is possible to have an angelic appearance and at the same time speak such nonsense. A moment later, they saw that their convoy was being attacked by bandits. Wendy was only worried about Aiden, but he was perfectly safe. Taking a closer look, the girl realized that these were not robbers, but well-trained and armed mercenaries. They are from an elite unit. The witch began to shout at the main one of them because she did not understand what exactly they had done to attack them. But the unknown man did not answer anything. He silently approached the carriage and grabbed the elf's hand. He ordered his troops to come closer and take everyone. Wendy wasn't going to give up the elf so easily, so she decided to use brute force. She kicked the guy on the head with a bang, but after a moment she regretted it, because her legs started to hurt a lot. It was because of this that she could not stand a fight. The man fell face down on the ground, and the witch said that she did not know who he was and what he intended, and she could not allow him to do what he planned. The elf thanked the girl for saving him. His hood fell so she could fully see his face. Here the witch realized that this was not a simple elf, but an elf hybrid, and Simon stole him and 2 others from the slave trader. Wendy was very angry. She knew that Haley would not give her an easy job, but she couldn't even imagine what story she would get into because of her. She will remember this well and repay her in full as soon as she meets her. Having overcome the attackers, the girl bandaged the hand of the elf and treated it. The man was very grateful for that. Aiden led Simon and Juliet to Wendy's place. The girl aggressively addressed her, but the young man ordered to follow his words, because this is his boss. The guy formally introduced Juliet to Wendy. She wanted to intervene and Simon covered her mouth. Wendy also formally introduced herself and added that she called everyone here because she needed to check on something. She directly asked if Simon and Juliet had robbed a slave trader. The man replied that Juliet was to blame for everything and he was just an accomplice. Wendy replied in that case they should have turned the slaves over to the army. Simon said that was a good idea too, but Juliet decided to take them for herself because she liked them. The girl could not control herself, but said that because they let several people in, their location was revealed. This means that the enemies will chase them like a pack of dogs. Juliet smugly replied that that was what they hired chaperones for, and that Wendy had nothing to complain about. But the witch replied that the commission did not say a word about the raid of slave traders. The main task was to accompany the couple to the city of Roadside. Simon replied that he understood these subtleties and planned to pay extra for this part of the arrangement. But even in this case, it will be quite difficult to do all this, because they are much more persistent than you might think. The man asked if there was a way to solve this problem, because he was already getting very nervous. Wendy understood that they had no choice but to attack them and destroy the entire market. But Juliet was against it. She shouted that the best solution would be to catch only some of them, because they constantly group. Wendy said that the slavers would bite if they prepared a good live stock. They need someone cute and very handsome. Juliet started screaming again, but Simon covered her mouth with his hand and replied that they needed to think things through, after which they would return. Aiden asked upset if the woman wanted to sell him. At that moment, the guy looked incredibly cute. She just wanted to pet him. He was like a puppy. She replied with sadness on her face that there was no other way out, and if he was against it, let him share it now. Wendy understood that this was not the most pleasant activity, so she would not force him. Aiden smiled and asked if the woman was ready to come to his aid in case of anything. Wendy was surprised that her lover would ask such an obvious thing. Without thinking, she answered that she would definitely help him. Aiden agreed to be the bait. Besides, he was terribly sick of Juliet. The witch chose her lover as bait because he was incredibly cute, handsome, and charming. But the main reason was the desire to separate Aiden and Juliet at least for a day. The other day, she got the answer to her questions about why the young man was behaving the way he did. She remembered the words of her lover. The head and the heart make decisions differently. In any of the cases, she understood the boy's sincere intentions. At the same moment when the witch wanted to kiss her lover, Simon and his sister entered the room. They agreed to act according to the woman's plan. The first thing they have to do is sell Aiden, and the other 3 will be on the market as buyers. After that, the organizer and accomplices of the market are arrested. The only way out was to attack. During all this, Aiden must protect the kidnapped persons. Simon counted all the expenses. He was shocked at how expensive their vacation was. It made sense, though, because he'd come back with all sorts of rare treasures, so no one but him would have to worry about money. He replied that although he did not know what he does and what he lives, he asked if she would like to know how he lives. Wendy interrupted Simon. She didn't want to listen to his completely inappropriate things. Aiden could not stand it. He untied his hands and lifted the girl. When they left, he asked her to be careful. And if there is a dangerous situation, she can rely on him. Wendy wondered if the young man was talking too sweetly to her, as she was going to sell her husband in the slave market. The woman replied that it was his choice. But Aiden only asked for a good meal before leaving. Simon replied that the baby can go, and that he himself will cope with everything perfectly. Aiden got angry and replied that if the man did something, he suddenly broke off. Aiden was afraid of the dragons standing behind Juliet. Simon asked if the young man was afraid of the older dragons, because she was quite close to them. Aiden just asked him to stop before he ripped his mouth open. The man just laughed at him. Wendy reassured the boy and told him that he had nothing to worry about. Juliet entered the room. She said that she had finished preparing and that it was time for them to leave. Meanwhile, one of the wounded mercenaries has already arrived at the illegal market. He told about the omens of each and added that the witch is unreal strong. The slave trader gritted his teeth. He was sure that this witch was Wendy Blanchett. The girls did not want to bite Aiden. Juliet was the most irritable. She didn't understand why Simon always obeyed Wendy, but she thought he liked her. Suddenly, the witch took a look at the girl. She actually looked very charming, and under other circumstances, she would have been as infatuated with her as she was with Rossi. However, the approach to them would be completely different. Simon interrupted the girl's thoughts. He surprised everyone with his words. He said that if Juliet didn't stop behaving like that, he would just leave. And he will be absolutely indifferent to what she tells the elders. Of course, Wendy was sure that no one would recognize them, but it seemed to her that Simon looked too confident in himself. It seemed to Juliet that the guide was leading them in a circle. Wendy was happy because she could place as many magic circles as possible. Suddenly, the girl decided to start a conversation with the witch. She shared that her brother must like Wendy. She asked to be kind to him, because unlike Aiden, Simon is very kind. After that, the girl remembered that the limit for people is the age of 100 years, and began to laugh at her. Her laughter was interrupted by Simon himself. He slapped her on the head and asked what the girl was allowing herself, because he ordered her to follow him and not make scandals. She probably wanted to say something about Aiden. Simon asked Wendy if it was true, and she was able to wriggle out. Juliet couldn't stand it, and replied that no matter how interesting Aiden was with her, he still wouldn't be able to really take care of her, because he can start all over again at any moment. Simon was about to hit her, and Wendy, unexpectedly for everyone, came to the girl's defense. But during their intrigues, an employee was waiting for them. Now they did not want to solve personal issues at all. The group was led into the VIP room, where they were supposed to wait for the auction in comfort. Simon sensed Wendy's attitude. He expected the same from her. All that remains is to wait for the auction. Surprisingly, Wendy still felt uncomfortable. She felt that there was no one but them on the 4th floor. Simon thought it was logical, but he had no idea that even the staff and security did not go here, which gave them good privileges. Wendy wondered why Simon hadn't even thought to cover his face. He would not have acted like that if he had known that he would be exposed. All this surprised her, because for some reason they were closed in the room. Everyone didn't know Wendy well enough to recognize her right away. She is not as popular as her teacher. Simon saw Shakma several times. He knows that Rod Bios is friends with him. Wendy's world is turned upside down. She is shocked that her teacher is popular even among dragons. Simon asked if she was the same sweet girl that Shakma was so proud of. Wendy replied that this is most likely the case. He added that she was probably cuter as a child. But suddenly, he asked if she wanted to hear exactly how her teacher praised her. He didn't even have time to finish what he wanted when the girl hit him with her heel right on his leg. Juliet only added that he deserved all this. Wendy was annoyed because Simon was talking about her without her being present. She specially hid her face before entering the village. They concluded that the enemy had informers. Juliet questioned whether she had understood correctly that there were mercenaries in the market. The man confirmed her words. They heard footsteps. Wendy was asked where Aiden was. She very quickly answered that the boy is in the basement, thereby slightly revealing the secret that she has Aiden's heart. Simon said it was better for them to move around without help, and now they could blend into the crowd. Juliet is pissed because it turns out they could have gone in the middle anyway without selling to Aiden. But Simon calmed the girl down. He replied that they, making their way inside, had to minimize the harm to those who were held hostage. They started quarreling with each other again. But Wendy believed that now was not the time to clarify the relationship. Suddenly, Simon shared that he had a plan, and if it gets scary, Wendy can be by his side. But the witch only laughed at the boy's words. After all, he uttered the next equally incomprehensible nonsense. Armed mercenaries ran into the room. Simon used nothing but a sword to injure most of them. Wendy used magic. She deftly struck enemies with a charge of lightning. During the battle, Simon asked if the witch thought they were a match. The fighters around were screaming in helplessness. They didn't know how to defeat these monsters. Wendy replied that the man's words were delusional. The attackers decided to act differently. They wanted to take Juliet hostage, but when she heard that, she got really angry. From what they saw, the guardsmen lost at least some hope of superiority over the enemy. They were not warned that the enemy would be so strong. During this battle, Wendy realized that many people know her face. All the hostages were successfully teleported out of the city, and thanks to this, she felt a little calmer. All that remains is to meet Aiden. Suddenly, the girl understood why she did not feel better. Even after everything she had heard, she still spent very little time with her lover. All she wanted was to be with him. Only because of this she is disappointed. She felt how the ants all over her body began to move. She could not have thought that such a day would come when she would feel goosebumps all over her body. Wendy mentally asked her lover to wait, and that she would follow him soon. Suddenly, Aiden hugged her from behind. He didn't want to wait. The girl was quite frightened because the boy answered her in some strange way. But the young man said that she spoke to him herself. Wendy was surprised because she just thought about him. Amazingly, she could not even think that she was able to teleport the boy to her with the power of thought. It's a bit like telepathy, but it felt different. Without realizing it, Wendy learned to use dragon language. She was able to use it after concluding the contract. But it takes time for people to accept a dragon's heart, and because of that, she couldn't fully use it. Now the girl can use the dragon language, which means that her body has finally accepted the dragon's heart. Aiden said that the girl can use the language of dragons, but not their magic. The girl needed a lot of research and time to understand exactly how everything works. The guy hugged her very tightly, and Wendy meanwhile was immersed in thinking about the new skill she had recently mastered. The witch asked if the boy didn't think that they were a bit in the wrong situation to just stand in each other's arms. But Aiden wanted to hug his beloved a little more. Surprisingly, the girl who previously could not tolerate physical contact with other men now smiles sincerely. She really enjoys feeling the temperature of someone else's body. Aiden changed the girl in a completely different direction. Still, Juliet saw the hug of the boy and the witch. She asked if the boy made a contract with her. The girl thought that Wendy had gone with Simon. Although she didn't want to believe it until the end, everything turned out to be true. Juliet found out that the couple wanted to deceive her, and the air around became sharply cold. Ice appeared under the feet of the angry girl. She could not believe that Aiden would do this to her, because he knew about her love for him. But the young man replied that he had refused her a long time ago. Juliet wanted to scream again, and suddenly the boy asked if the girl had thought about why she loved him. Suddenly, Wendy nearly collapsed from exhaustion. Aiden ordered the girl to stop. The witch is shocked because Juliet targeted her and she couldn't even use magic. After that, the heroine realized that the existence of dragons is completely different. Juliet was incredibly angry. She asked why the boy didn't tell everything right away. She wanted to know what really was the reason he was hiding everything. Judging by the young man's reaction, what he feared most was that the older dragons would find out about his love. Juliet was disappointed because she was very happy to meet Aiden. Even though he wasn't smiling at her, she was glad if only because he didn't push her away. She wanted to hear it all at once, and in that case, she might understand him. But Aiden knew that this would not happen, because even after 100 rejections, Juliet did not stop. The young man added that for the last few days, he had told her directly that he did not love her, but she still followed him, believing that in the end, he would belong to her. Aiden's words touched the girl deeply. Her eyes watered, and she tried her best not to cry. She asked why the boy hated her so much. She didn't understand what she didn't have, what Wendy had. But Aiden replied that this is not the point. Juliet is just not Wendy Blanchett. The girl burst into tears and shouted that she loved him much longer. She fell to her knees and could not come to herself. Aiden asked Wendy to go away and leave the girl alone. The witch looked at Juliet. She truly loves Aiden sincerely. In addition, her face, even when the girl was crying, was incredibly beautiful. Aiden asked if Wendy was okay. The girl replied that her lover had nothing to worry about. Suddenly, the witch realized that Juliet seemed so beautiful to her because, unlike Wendy, she had enough courage to be honest with herself. The next day, they met with Simon. He stepped on Wendy's foot and asked sarcastically if he had gone too far. Only the man added that he was pleased to see the girl in such a state as at the same moment he received a blow from her. Aiden offered to hold Simon so she could give him a good shake. But that was enough, answered Wendy. The man did not understand how it is possible to act like this with elders who help them. Aiden noticed that Simon was very good at blaming someone. Getting up, he realized that the couple had made out with Juliet because the lovers were no longer hiding and came to him holding hands. Simon assured that he will do everything possible so that his sister does not do stupid things and trouble for Aiden and his lover, because the husband also did not want anything bad to happen. Still, he can't guarantee anything, because Juliet is the first child born after so much time to win the love of her clan. Of course, the girl has already become an adult, but Simon does not know how long the older dragons will protect her. Pressing on the bad, the man added that they probably had to learn from the clan of black dragons, and remembered that not everything went well with them either. Although Aiden's face did not change, Wendy felt his negative emotions. Aiden asked if Simon should see his sister, but the man replied that he could not be a good brother. After a short pause, he continued, and said that he could be a wonderful husband, addressing Wendy. The girl again threatened to spank him. Suddenly, among the people who were caught was someone who wanted to talk to the witch. She came up and saw a person she knew. He assured her that they knew each other and ordered to let him go. She was asked if everything the man said was true. The witch asked to let her deal with him. The man was very angry. He ordered to untie her immediately because the girl was already in trouble. Wendy asked which side they caught the man from. Simon replied that he was caught from the client's side. The witch leaned over and asked if the man had come alone, and she immediately recognized from his face that the man was not alone. She ordered Aiden to go through the list and see if there was anyone else from the Wizarding Tower. The man yelled that Wendy had never been able to break her habit of getting into trouble. The girl replied that, in fact, trouble was waiting for him, because she went to rescue her subordinate, who was kidnapped during their business trip. Wendy added that she didn't care that the man got caught, but she finally heard a compliment instead of a mumble. The teacher asked to take care of the reputation of the Tower of Sorcerers, but Wendy directly asked why the man ordered to attack her. Most likely, he just wanted to get rid of the one who was bothering him so much. But he miscalculated in 3 places. She was not the strongest of the team. The second is that they planned to blow up the building. And the third is that you cannot teleport in places where a magic circle is installed. Wendy knew that the man wanted to escape using teleportation, but he was just making excuses. Suddenly, Aiden came and brought a male accomplice behind the bars. He asked what to do with them and offered to kill them immediately. Wendy laughed at what an idiot the man was. He hoped they would be released after they revealed their identities. She added that she was sorry and that she was not that stupid. Shakma was very angry. He could have rested and distracted from his problems, when here appeared people from the tower who were detained for a crime. The great teacher had to solve this question before giving his student an important lesson. Suddenly, Rossi flew into Wendy's room in the form of a bird. Although she was on her honeymoon, she has many friends. That is why she was able to get to her. The girl was happy for the witch, because she caught James Randall, but for Rossi, it was obvious that the man would be caught sooner or later. Because for a long time, there were rumors about him and magical weapons. He is a terrible person, and he needed the slave trade market in order to conduct experiments on people. The girl talked so much that she climbed right on top of her boss's head, but she wondered how Wendy managed to do it, and even while on a business trip. Wendy said that she was just passing by. But Rossi does not understand why witches drive by the building of the slave trade. Suddenly, the girl asked Aiden to check if there was any location magic on her. Rossi saw that she was being ignored, but she was sure that she would soon find out everything. Randall's fate was decided. He was imprisoned and banished from the tower forever. Because Randall is from a noble family, he will not be given the death penalty, the woman said. On the same day, a corporate evening on the development of magical weapons is to be held. If it weren't for the honeymoon, Rossi would have gone too. She wanted to brag about Miss Wendy catching him, but the witch said to forget about it and enjoy the honeymoon. But Rossi wanted to talk more, but she had already had enough of the couple. In parting, the witch asked Rossi to enjoy her vacation, and it was time for her to leave again. The subordinate said that it was all too much and left. Her sweaty chatter made my ears hurt. She sometimes crosses all boundaries. Aiden gave Wendy a strawberry, and she began to seduce the young man. They lay down together on the bed. She had not felt so calm for a long time. This is what Aiden was waiting for. Wendy had no idea that she would feel so good. This was all a normal routine until a few days ago before the business trip. They said goodbye to Simon and broke the contract early because Juliet was tired of all these games. And the elves and other captives must be delivered to the girl. In parting, the man told Aiden that avoidance was not the best option. And sooner or later, bad things will happen. It seemed to Wendy that Simon was talking about more than just Juliet. Most likely, he meant the interaction between dragons. Aiden apologized to Wendy, though she had no idea why. The guy added that he apologizes for the fact that the girl caused his beloved trouble. Wendy jokingly said that it was all his fault and that he was terribly popular. Aiden replied that in that case, she is even more popular than him. After that, he lay down with a sad face. The girl asked if the young man was offended by her because she sold him in the market. He replied that he did not care at all. Then Wendy grabbed the young man by the skin of the beard and asked him to tell his lover what was bothering him so much. Also, she will kiss him until he tells absolutely everything. The girl passionately kissed her lover on the lips a huge number of times. Aiden stopped the girl and said that he would tell everything in exchange for a kiss. They sat down to talk, and the boy suddenly said that he had not been a child for a long time. He didn't want to look young to Wendy, but the witch replied that she was also not quite mature. Aiden said that Wendy looked really beautiful next to Simon. Besides, the man is calmer and more mature than him. Wendy did not want to listen to all this. She only quarreled with Simon all the way, and her lover's conclusion that they were getting along well was completely wrong. The guy replied that he was not as good at seduction as Simon. Wendy found it strange because Aiden seduces others without even opening his mouth. The young man is angry with himself because of what constantly bothers the witch. In addition, he realized that he behaved like a child when he met Juliet. People really say that Aiden is younger than Wendy. Humans and dragons have very different lifespans and aging. This also applies to maturity. Wendy looked intently into her lover's eyes. When she did that, Aiden lost his mind and was driven only by passion. He leaned down and kissed the girl on the neck and said that he could not resist. The witch was surprised that the young man thought that he could not seduce. Actually, the guy was fine with it. Juliet alone pursued the boy for 1,000 years. Just as skillfully, the young man deceived Wendy herself several times, concluded a contract with her, and after all this, she forgave him. She stroked Aiden's hair and added that young people always want to look more mature. She said that she does not like such frivolous seducers as Simon. If all this is not sincere, then it will not affect the heroine in any way. For her, Aiden is Aiden, and she likes him just the way he is. And if the young man is calm around her, she will get angry. She ordered the boy to show what kind of beast he is, and if he doesn't do it, she won't be happy about it. The boy's face was completely red. He took the girl in his arms and carried her to the bed. He didn't know whether to restrain himself completely or not. Aiden asked Wendy about it, and she said that he can let out all his emotions and gave him a sincere smile. Because of this, they suddenly decided to rest. They went to the seashore. As soon as the girl returned, she saw a huge number of birds at her house. The witch was terribly angry because they dared to disturb her. Aiden reminded them that they were still on a business trip. But Wendy replied that first of all, it was her vacation. She specially reserved a week for herself. She ordered everyone to fly away. Aiden wondered what if they flew in to say something important. The heroine answered that most of the familiar people present here were with whom she had never communicated. Wendy realized that Rossi had already told everyone everything. Suddenly, she saw an owl asking to listen to her. It was Logan. He said that the period of preparation for the heat will soon begin. They must be resting so well that they are not even going to come back. Logan is the only person currently in the magic research department. He asked if he should expend so much energy preparing for the insane heat alone and any replacement. He may die of exhaustion. Wendy understood the boy. He was already fed up with Rossi and Nick's honeymoon. She assured him that the boy could not worry about it. After all, during the preparation for the heat, a large amount of magic and physical strength is spent. After receiving an important message, Wendy can finally take a break from it all. But Aiden noticed that the woman did not respond to another message. The girl knew about it and said that everything is fine, because it is not important. Aiden asked if it was sometimes a message from the same person. It was indeed Cain. Aiden got angry and grabbed the hawk by the head. He wanted to quiet the bird, and Wendy asked him not to because she felt sorry for the birds. He wondered if the girl had her own familiar, but she said that as soon as she tries to call someone, something strange appears. Aiden was surprised that Wendy was not perfect in any of the magical areas. Wendy replied that she just lacks a little strength, but she can do everything. The magic of the draft is complicated, but that's not surprising. The girl has a problem in her incommunicability, but not only with familiars, but also with people. Aiden asked to try to summon the animal now. Maybe it would succeed. But after that, the young man thought that nothing would work out for the girl. Wendy got angry because she thought her lover thought she was too uncommunicative. But in reality, the matter is different. The spirits are simply afraid of such powerful magic. And since they mixed their magic, it's not surprising. Wendy concluded that dragons can't use spirits, but that's not true. They sign a contract with a higher-level dragon and use it as a lower-level spirit. Wendy didn't want to use the no-spirit stake. She didn't want to force the frightened spirits to do anything. After that, they decided to finish talking about work and start enjoying their vacation. But the familiars lined up to convey all the necessary messages. Aiden asked if he should cage them all, and Wendy said he didn't have to. The boy did not understand if they could rest now. The girl assured that there is nothing wrong with this. Besides, they are on vacation now. But Aiden still had the thought that they were still on a business trip. But Wendy did not care about the business trip. They set aside 1 week just to rest and have an absolute right to it. Moreover, all she needs is to get to Rahamala on one of the appointed days. But there is one problem. Wendy really likes spending time with her lover. Aiden was happy about this and hugged the woman. But Wendy was afraid that because of all this, she might become lazy. The young man replied that a woman can completely become lazy, and this will not be a problem. The witch replied that the young man should stop her at such moments because she has to earn money. Even if she has saved enough money, she needs to save more because now her life expectancy has increased. Aiden said he had a lot of money. He received a huge amount of treasure from his predecessors, and he has many artifacts that will appeal to witches. Wendy said that the young man cannot say such a thing because in this case, he will be taken advantage of. She wondered what he would do if she stuck her nose in and controlled him and just lay there. Aiden replied that he would do whatever she ordered if the girl was happy. Then the witch realized how lucky the boy was that he fell in love with her, because if he found someone with a strange hobby, it would be pretty bad. The girl didn't even want to think about it. She said that Aiden shouldn't trust people so much. He must be attentive and not allow himself to lose his vigilance. Aiden asked if the woman thought he was easy to fool. Wendy said that she was very worried about him, because there are a lot of bad people in the world. But the young man said that he should say such things to the girl because she is very soft. She has forgiven him countless times, and even now worries about the boy. Wendy said that she behaves like this only with him. Although she is cold-blooded in her words, she still agrees to everything. So it's not Aiden who needs to be careful, but her. He asked the girl for one thing. Touching the girl's face, he wanted Wendy to command him with her chin up. After they had rested enough, it was time for them to go to another city. Aiden asked if the girl wanted him to do something. The witch replied that she does not need anything yet. The young man was sad. He really liked it when his beloved dominated him. For some reason, just now he discovered such a strange hobby for himself. Wendy said it's a dangerous hobby, so they stopped doing it. Now the command is banned. Suddenly, Simon entered the room. He said that if the tomboy didn't want it, he would already be here. Aiden got angry and wanted to attack him, but the man asked him to wait. He quickly hid behind the witch so that the young man would not attack him. Aiden called the man a coward. They did not understand why Simon came to them. He brought word from Rod Bios. The guy asked why Rod didn't come in person, but the man said that they single-handedly dispersed all the familiars. Aiden didn't know that Simon was on the run at Rod's, but the man asked himself, because thanks to this excuse, you can see the witch again. The boy asked Wendy to wait a little while he would get rid of Simon right away. That woman still wanted to listen to her husband. Maybe the message from Bios was important. The man said that he had sent Juliet to Rhoda's castle. He took her there so that the elders of the Silver family would not notice her. Bios agreed to accept her, so you cannot worry about her. Simon also relayed that due to Juliet's return, the chick's safety was at risk. Rod ordered to take care of it. The man took out a small red baby dragon. It was very cute, and Wendy couldn't help but hug it. She spoke to the child in human language, and he still did not understand her. The woman started cooing at the baby dragon and asked if it was hungry. Simon asked if the girl should be stopped, as her enthusiasm seemed unhealthy. Suddenly, Aiden shouted that when he was a baby, he looked even cuter than this dragon, and that even now it can become so. After these words, Wendy came to her senses. She ordered the boy to calm down. Aiden was sad, because in the form of a baby he really looked very cute, and he wanted to show it. But he ordered the baby not to suffer because the witch thought he was cute. The guy began to think of situations in which the girl could be hurt. He gave the example of flame. But the baby woman will not be harmed by the flames. She destroyed Rod's property and is in debt to him. It is also their fault that Juliet is locked up in the castle. But Aiden didn't understand why it was their fault. Simon added that Aiden is entirely to blame for this. They sent her there to buy at least some time. As you can already see, they have a child of the Red Dragon clan. It does not belong to the Silver Clan. Especially Juliet does not get along with him. Therefore, he could not leave them in the same room. You can't let him out, except for a little while. For some reason, dragons cannot talk to humans when they are children until they become adults. Although Wendy signed a contract with Aiden, she is still human. Aiden wanted them to bring the dragon back, but the witch child seemed so cute that she was just head over heels for him. Simon said that it cannot be returned.